It's Locked On Giants Live with Patricia Traina, yours truly, Tana, and the dog. We're coming your way next.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Giant fans. Today's episode of the Locked On Giants podcast is sponsored by SimpliSafe Home Security. With fast protect technology exclusively from SimpliSafe, 24/7 monitoring agents capture evidence to accurately verify a threat for faster police response. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. Visit simplisafe.com/LockedOnNFL to learn more. What is up, Giant fans? Welcome to Locked On Giants Live. You got Traina, Tana, and the dog. We are here. And gentlemen, first off, welcome to the program.
Gentlemen, who came in, Pat? Who came in?
We've got some things to talk about tonight, I would say. Quite a bit, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, pretty.
I mean, just a normal, quiet day in Giants land, right?
But nothing to talk about, really.
Nothing special. Just a trade was made. So we're gonna break that down for you. I've got some additional insight I can provide to it. We'll get your opinions. We'll answer your questions. I want to send a shout out to all the newcomers who are on the live feed tonight. I want to also those of you who might be looking at this after we end the live feed. I want to welcome you all in. And of course, to our loyal followers who are here, Papa Guzzo and the crew, welcome. So guys, they did it. They traded Kadarius Toney. Let me get your initial reactions on the trade.
Yeah, I'll start real quick. My initial reaction on the trade was, I guess like for about 20 seconds, not even like 5 seconds, shocked. Just because you're always shocked when anybody gets traded from your team. I read it. I'm like, Kadarius Toney just got traded. Wow. But then after I had like 20 seconds to think about it, I was like, well, I kind of like halfway expected this. We heard this all throughout the entire offseason that there were rumors that they may look to trade him. We always thought it was a little bit fishy that this guy hasn't been on the football field. He seems to have a new injury every single week. And I do think, and this is just my theory, Patricia, but I really do think that the tone that he set early on, I think left a really sour taste in Brian Daboll's mouth. And when I say that, you look at what Daboll has done with this football team. He wants guys that are going to come in there each and every week and they're going to practice hard. They're going to play hard. They're going to work their butts off. We've seen evidence of that. Guys like David Sills getting opportunities to play over guys like Kenny Golladay because he feels like he fits exactly what he's looking to do. He doesn't always necessarily look to play the most talented guy. He looks for the guy that's working his butt off, that fits what he's looking to do. Toney, what did he do at the beginning of training camp when everything first started? I should say voluntary minicamp. And I know it's voluntary for everybody that's the biggest Kadarius Toney supporter in the world. It's voluntary. I understand that. I know what the word voluntary means. But a brand new head coach, a brand new offensive scheme, a quarterback that's looking to get on the same page with his receivers from within that scheme, and Daboll's a guy that expresses hard work, yada, 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 for him not to show up, I do think that set the wrong tone. And I really do in my heart believe that may have something to do with why at that point in time, Schoen and Daboll turned to each other and said, do we really need this guy? Do we really need to build with this guy on our football team long term? So I do think that kind of set the tone for Toney.
I was just going to say, I agree. When I first saw the tweet, I was like, what? Because like Chris said, you when you see a player of that caliber, because obviously he's had talent. I mean, he's a first round pick. He obviously had talent. We never really saw it outside of the one game, but he had a lot of potential. I'll just put it that way. But he could never get on the field. And like Chris said, I think I don't know what was going on last year. Like even in the beginning, his rookie season, he had the shoe problem, then he had his grandmother passed away. Then he had COVID. Like I kept saying it's weird. Like there's so many weird things that happen with him that don't allow him to get on the field. It's not like it's a serious injury, like he tore something or he broke something or whatever. And we heard a lot of rumors in April that they're looking to trade him. Now, nothing really came of it. But I think when they drafted Wan'Dale Robinson in the second round, I think it raised some eyebrows. Number one is why are we drafting a guy? And Wan'Dale Robinson, there's all these other places, these other receivers that we could use or different positions or whatever, why are we drafting a guy that is pretty similar to Kadarius Toney in a skill set? And like Chris said, I think that Daboll and Schoen were kind of like, you know what? I don't really care for this guy's attitude. I don't really like the way he fits here. I like a skill set, but the personality doesn't really mesh with what we're looking to build here with the Giants. So I do think he became expendable, and I don't think that they looked forward to building with him in the future. So again, I think and also I think when Wan'Dale Robinson got healthy and they saw him produce, they said, okay, we can get rid of this guy now. We don't need to hang on to him anymore. We'll take what we can get for him. We'll let him move on. They're just going to cut ties, and that's going to be the end of it. But yeah, it was surprising at first, but at the end of the day, we didn't need him. I mean, we're 6-1 without the guy. He has as many receiving yards as all three of us combined this year. He has as many touchdowns as his Giants career as all three of us combined. So it was a shock in the beginning, but like Chris said, you kind of get over it and you almost expected he wasn't going to be here because
Andrew Thomas had 8 more points than he did.
Yes, yes, exactly.
The other thing real quick is in training camp, when Daboll came out and said the guys that are working hard are going to be the ones on the field, I think at that point he knew we weren't really considering it. They didn't really like Kadarius Toney. The fact that Richie James and David Sills and Colin Johnson was making this team had he not torn his Achilles.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved Colin Johnson. I was rooting for him. So I think early on they knew they weren't going forward with him, and they were just looking for the right time and the right price.
I got a theory. And I know this is like against like league protocol. So I'm curious to get if you guys agree with me on this. I don't know. Like Toney came out with the tweet today, and then he later deleted it that he was never really hurt. That may very well be the case. Like he may have been like a little bit hurt, but the New York Giants might have been like, well,
I'll shed some light on that.
Okay.
I can shed some light on that.
Yeah, because my thought process, Patricia, is the Giants probably said, well, if we let the league know that Kadarius Toney's completely healthy and we're electing to start Richie James over him, that's going to destroy his trade value. So the Giants might have known all along since the beginning of the year, we're trading this guy. We're going to look for the right situation to present itself. And when it does, we're trading him. They may have let Kadarius Toney know that full well, or maybe Toney demanded a trade. Maybe he didn't like New York. I don't know all the specifics, but there may be some legitimacy to that story that he was never really hurt, that the New York Giants were babying his injuries a little bit. They weren't forcing him out on the football field because they didn't want to hurt his trade value.
Okay, first off, before I shed some light, my reaction, just real quick, I was shocked because I figured they're not going to give up on talent. The kid's got talent. And yes, it's been frustrating he hasn't been able to get on the field, but I figured, look, there've been other guys that they have stuck with that can't get on the field. Aaron Robinson, Ellerson Smith. And I figured, okay, if they're sticking with those guys, they're going to stick with this kid if this kid is supposedly doing everything right, everything that the coaches want. So I was a little surprised when it first happened. Then as I, went back and rewound stuff, looked back at my notes, looked back at transcripts, looked back at, different things, I said, okay, now it's all starting to make sense. So with regards to, let me just clarify a couple things. First off, I know a lot of people said to me, oh, this is an accumulation of going back to last year. Wrong. Guys, we know last year was a problem for him, but when this coaching staff and this GM came in, this was a clean slate for everybody. Everybody got a clean slate. Just look at O'Shane Ximines. This is a guy who had Joe Judge return. O'Shane Ximines wouldn't be on this team probably. All right. So clean slate for everybody. It was up to everyone to take advantage of the clean slate. And some guys did and some guys didn't. And Chris, as you said, Toney, even though it was voluntary, and we, again, folks, we understand the meaning of voluntary. When you have a new head coach and a new GM, it probably is in your best interest to show up. Now, some people said, well, maybe Toney couldn't show up because he had an off-season knee surgery or this, that, and the other thing. Okay, remember, though, those first 3 weeks, what were they doing? They were lifting weights. Mm-hmm. All right. So you mean to tell me the guy, unless something was going on, unless he had a sick family member or something was going on in his personal life, and I'm not talking about the rap record or anything like that, he should have been there.
And it was the second year in a row, by the way. It was the second year in a row he missed voluntary, I believe.
Right. Well.
And the year before there was
you can't really count the first year because because of the draft. But the point being is unless and he never said what the reason was, but you kind of got the impression talking to Daboll back in April. And I went back and I looked at my notes and I looked at the transcripts. Like I said, that it wasn't a personal, like somebody was sick or on their deathbed or anything like that, that it was just the guy's choice not to come in. And that was that's a bad look, because I don't know about you guys, but if I get a new boss in here next week, which is the bye week, and he says, okay, I want you on a meeting every day, even though I'm supposed to have a couple of days off next week, guess what? My butt's going to be in the meeting every day. I'm not going to run the risk of saying, oh, I'm not, I'm better than that. I don't need to be in the meeting. So that's one thing I want to mention. The second thing regarding the injuries, was that frustrating? Absolutely. Was Toney injured? He absolutely was. A couple weeks ago, he spoke to the media and he talked about that actually. Now, here's where I think there was maybe some disconnect, maybe what prompted the tweet that he put out and has since deleted. Sometimes, actually a lot of times, guys feel that they're better than what they are. Saquon Barkley gets hurt, his shoulder, oh, my shoulder, it's nothing. Daniel Jones sprains an ankle, it's not a big deal. I can play through it. So sometimes these guys think that they're a little further along than what they are, whereas the medical staff, and the Giants have a very conservative medical staff, they tend to err on the side of caution. So I think the plan, and I could be wrong here, but I think the plan was keep him sidelined, let him continue his rehab, and then after the bye week, see where he was at. Same thing with Golladay and the other guys. So Toney maybe hearing the chatter about people calling him a China doll or whatever you want to, whatever term you want to use. I think Toney let that get to him. And that's where the maturity level comes in, because look, you're in New York. Not everybody's cut out to be in New York. You got to have thick skin, because people are going to say stuff and it's going to be hurtful sometimes, but you got to have thick skin. And unfortunately, this young man didn't have thick skin, and he would go back at people. I know, Chris, you were talking about, a tweet exchange you had, Dog. You were talking about how Toney blocked you.
He literally blocked me because I said he has an injury history.
Yeah, which is true. You didn't say anything,
I literally basically
false.
said the sky is blue. I said a true, undisputable statement. Didn't call him soft.
Right.
I just said he's been hurt a lot. I need to see him on the field. He's got talent.
Right. Exactly. So it wasn't as derogatory as maybe he thought it was. Well, you know what? The guy's just, it's unfortunate because you know what? They put him next. I told you, they put him next to Shep and Daniel Jones on either side in the locker room, with the hopes that those two guys, who were two of the hardest working guys in that locker room, would maybe get him right. Shep, unfortunately, they lost him early. Jones was there, but how much was Toney really willing to put in? And it's a shame, because the kid does have talent, but sometimes when these kids come out of college, they think they have all the answers, and they don't. They have to learn how to be a pro. And that's the mantra around the Giants facility. Every place you walk, you see in big letters, be a pro. And some guys take that message seriously and they do what they need to be a pro. And some guys just look at it and go, I'm already a pro. I'm here. I'm in the building. And I think Kadarius Toney fell into the latter group, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, again, we never really got to see him. I don't really know what he was, but even in week one, I mean, he only played 7 snaps, and most of that was in the fourth quarter. So they held him out of week one as well. And yeah, like you said, Pat, if I have a new boss and he has a voluntary meeting to get together all of his employees to kind of say, hey, this is the direction we're going. This is what I expect of you guys, whatever. As much as, and again, I don't get paid like these guys. As much as I wouldn't want to be there and I want to go home and I want to do whatever I want to do, I'm going to that meeting. Sure, because I want to make a good first impression. I don't want to get on the guy's bad side immediately and then have work be hell every day that I go in there, because they're going to look at me and go, well, how come this guy's too good to go to a voluntary meeting? Everybody else showed up. Why is he too good? What makes him special when everybody's supposed to be equal? And so I do think that was a bad look for him. And
his teammates, some of his teammates commented about that. I can't remember if it was Leonard or Kenny. One of them commented and kind of said that, right. And not so many words. One of them said that he should have been there.
Yeah.
So I can't remember which one it was, but his teammates noticed. And here's the other thing, Dog. This team, Brian Daboll is trying to build up a team. All right. Which means no one man, no one person is above the team.
Right.
And if you're not willing to put the time in and the effort in, then guess what? You're not going to fit into this culture that he's trying to build. And he's going to be like, okay, you know what? You don't want to do it? Go else and go take your talents elsewhere. I'm going to get guys in here that want to do it.
I mean, listen, I think it sends the right message. You look at this team, like you just said about Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley's going out there. This has now been 2 weeks in a row where Saquon Barkley has to take a drive off where he's literally hanging his shoulder.
Yep.
Like you could tell this guy's going out there and he's giving it everything in his power to go out there and try to win football games. Daniel Jones, I mean, we had worries that the guy was going to be out for multiple weeks, with the ankle sprain. He was able to play in London. Like these guys are playing at far less than 100%. And I don't know this. I'm not in the locker room. I don't watch this. But if that's the case with Toney and he's slacking off and he's not giving it his all, that sets the wrong tone. Daboll's like, no, I'm not putting up with this. I'm trying to build something here. I'm not putting up with it. And I think the players are going to actually appreciate that.
Right.
Yeah, I think so too. And that's why they had that conversation. It was, before practice today, the teammates saw Toney change from his uniform into street clothes, and everybody was like, what the heck's going on? And it, to their credit, Schoen and Daboll addressed the team and told them what was going on. It was okay, what are you doing with Kadarius here? So they were transparent. And remember, this coaching staff and this GM, they are transparent with these guys.
Yeah, didn't they cut somebody before they made them practice? I forgot who.
Yeah, I forget who it was. But I want to just circle back because you guys had mentioned something about the rumors going back to April that they were looking to move Toney. I don't think those rumors were, I mean, there were whispers. I don't want to say that they were totally false, but I had heard from a pretty good source that they weren't actively looking to move Toney. Like if an offer came in that blew their doors off, then yeah, you got to consider it. But they weren't anticipating it. They were planning on him being a big part of this offense. His skill set was a fit for what they were doing. And, at the time, going back to April, May, June, and so forth, they weren't actively looking to move him. Now, did something deteriorate? I wrote this for Giants Country today. This is just my guess based on putting the pieces of the puzzle together. I mentioned the guys that have been injured, the Aaron Robinsons, the Ellerson Smiths, and hey, they're still here. Yeah. Why isn't Toney? So I wondered if perhaps Toney wasn't doing something that he should have been doing, that maybe they were expecting him to do. Mm-hmm. Was he not studying as much? Was he not spending time in the weight room? Was he not watching film? What wasn't he doing that made him stand out to where maybe it was sending a bad message in the locker room to where these other guys are saying, hey, for example, I'm sitting here till 8:00 at night when I could be home with my wife and my kids, and I'm watching film trying to get better, and this clown is off doing whatever. So right. I wondered about that, and it would not surprise me if that was a tipping point for this regime to go out and hey, whatever we can get for him that's reasonable. And by the way, the compensation they got for him, I don't think that's too bad, all things considering, to get 2 draft picks, one of which is going to be a 3rd round compensatory pick. That's the pick. One of the picks that the Chiefs got. One of the picks that the Chiefs got for Ryan Poles from, they got 2 comp picks for the Ryan Poles getting hired by the Bears. You figure that's going to be a top 100 pick, probably, or pretty close to it. So, and then the 6th round pick, the Giants didn't have a 6th round pick. So now they've got it again.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of fans who are like way too talented, and I get it. He showed spurts. He has potential. He was a 1st round pick for a reason. What did you think his trade value was going to be? The guy has 420 career receiving yards, and almost half of them came in one game, a game in which we lost by 20 points to the Dallas Cowboys. He has 0 career touchdowns. To get what we got, actually, is probably more, which is why I wasn't for trading him, because I didn't even think we were going to be able to get this. Right. I probably thought like a 5th round pick because he's done nothing throughout his career. He's had severe injury problems throughout his entire career, and he may very well do great with Kansas City. I mean, you can't ask to be in a better situation.
Yeah. Right.
But I'm not going to judge this trade based off that. The Giants didn't feel like he was in the best interest to build with on their football team. A lot of receivers go to Kansas City and look good.
Yeah, well, listen, they got that on potential alone. They got that draft value. But to your point, Pat, one thing when you talk about these guys, and Chris, you mentioned it too, you got Daniel Jones out there, the bum ankle. You got Saquon Barkley out there, the bum shoulder. These guys are like taking a play off. Just tape it up, man. I'm ready to go. I mean, they want to run through a wall for Daboll. They want to run through a wall for each other. That's why they're 6-1. They feed off each other. When you got a guy like Kadarius Toney that maybe probably isn't working as hard as the other guys, and they're looking at him going, why is this guy getting away with this? Why isn't he here to lay the clock studying film? Why isn't he in the weight room? Why isn't he hanging out with his teammates? Whatever the case may have been, that could cause a lot of resentment in the locker room. And you don't want that. If you're trying to build chemistry and unity with the team, you don't want that one guy that just kind of stands out. And everybody's like, what's up with this guy? What's up with this guy? So it obviously didn't become a distraction because we won 6 of our first 7 games, but that's something that could linger. And again, maybe he does go to Kansas City because, like Chris, could you go to a better situation? Andy Reid, Pat Mahomes, if he's healthy,
if he's healthy. And by the way, part of the trade condition is he's got to pass a physical. So we'll see just how healthy he is, because if that hamstring, is really, and he was making progress. I firmly believe that had he still been on this team, he would have been back after the bye week. So I think the Chiefs, if I'm not mistaken, they have a bye this week. Am I correct? I think they have a bye this week.
I think so.
And then next, so Tony's got a couple weeks to kind of get himself ready, if you will. So this is going to be interesting to see. Tariq S is going crazy over this trade.
They like you said, they don't play till November 6th. That's
Let me just put this up here. Tariq S is going crazy. What was the rush to trade him away? Tariq, the trade deadline is November 1st. Yeah. Okay, that's what, 4 days away. So
it's Tuesday.
They had an offer. They got an offer that they felt was fair, and they took advantage of it. Look, since when is acquiring more draft picks a bad thing? It's really not.
Listen, I think we got to realize that this is no longer Dave Gettleman's team.
Exactly.
This is Joe Schoen's team, and I'm going to have my opinion at the end of the year as to which players I think they should keep and which players they won't. But no matter what they do, they can let Barkley go. I love Barkley, and I think they should bring Barkley back, and I expect them to bring Barkley back. But if they don't, I'm not going to flip out. If they don't bring back Daniel Jones, I'm not going to flip out. Those were not their guys. I'm going to give them an opportunity. I may disagree with some of their decisions along the way, but I'm at least going to give them the opportunity to build their roster the way that they see fit. And they identified Kadarius Toney as a guy they don't want to build with for whatever reason. I don't know the reason, but they identified him as a guy they do not want to build with. And they said to themselves, let's get something while we can.
Right.
Yeah, and which is what they did.
Let me ask you this, because I kind of mentioned this. The first thing I did after the Toney trade, I've been active on Twitter a lot here the last few weeks. I think it's because the Giants are good. So, I like talking about the Giants. I like talking about them anyway. It's much more fun when you're good, though.
And it's so much nicer to have you on Twitter, Dal.
It's fun. It can be toxic too. I mean, you talk about having thick skin. Sure. You're going to be on Twitter, any social media. No matter where you're from, you better have thick skin. But at first I was like, Kenny Golladay, get ready to pack your bags because he hasn't fit in here. But then I saw his interview and I started thinking to myself, is it possible that this really motivates him? This could be the best thing for Kenny Golladay that Tony's gone, not because Toney was a bad influence on Golladay, but Golladay could be sitting here in the back of his head going, my God, they just traded their first round pick from last year. I've done nothing. I've done just as much as him and I'm getting paid a fortune. And next year they can cut me and they can save some cap space. And I'm not their guy. They didn't bring me in here. So he said, I've never been on a 10-win team before. Obviously, he's not been part of a lot of winning football in Detroit. So he does, and he wasn't part of a winner here last year either. So obviously, it motivates. He wants to get on the field and he wants to help.
He's motivated. Absolutely.
I did like seeing that
really, though, like, I think with Golladay, it could be a lack of concentration. Who knows? I mean, I don't know how seriously injured he is, but we've seen him drop passes. There was a lot of talk about how he didn't run his routes really hard in training camp, but maybe this is the type of thing where he sits there and has that aha moment. Man, I got to bust my butt here in the second half. I want to help the Giants get to a championship or, a division or playoffs or whatever. I want to help this team win. So hopefully that is the thing that he needs to get kickstarted so he can be the receiver that we paid $72 million for, the guy that caught 11 touchdowns in Detroit, the guy that had over 1,000 yards receiving, because Lord knows we could certainly use him, especially in the red zone. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping that this does kind of light a fire under him. He says, "Man, I really gotta take a look at myself and go, what am I doing to help this team? Because if they don't think I'm helping, they're going to get rid of me too."
Exactly. And Golladay, say what you want about him. I think it does bother him that they're having all this success without him, and it's an opportunity. He sees it. He's like, geez, this is something special we're building. Now, don't get me wrong. Even if Golladay comes back and he lights it up, I don't think he's here next year, because if he were here next year, they would have gotten cap relief already from him. I think
Right.
that contract's gone after this year.
Yeah.
But you're right. I sense a renewed fire, if you will, in Kenny Golladay. Because look, how often are you going to be in this situation? Being on a winning team is not guaranteed year after year after year.
We know.
You've got to live for the moment. And Golladay, yes, he would like to play, and he's been frustrated. But you know what? This is a lesson to him, if you will. Do what you have to do. Get yourself healthy and contribute.
Mhm.
Don't sit there and think, well, I should be playing regardless.
Right.
Oh, I don't have to do the study or what, I don't know. I mean, that comment that Golladay made weeks ago, I should be playing regardless, that didn't
Right.
sit well with me, because it's like, dude, can you be any more entitled? Come
Yeah.
on. You got to
Yeah.
put the work in. It's that
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask you guys, and again, this could be true. The trade rumor or the trade deadline's Tuesday. We didn't have a lot of receivers anyway, and now we just lost Kadarius Toney. Well, traded Kadarius Toney. Did they get the draft capital to try to get somebody else in here, like a Jerry Jeudy, like a Chase Claypool, a guy that's on the rookie contract that's not going to cost a lot against the cap, and now they have extra picks to do so?
Yeah.
You
Listen,
know what?
possible?
Can I wait?
I'll let you go first. Yeah.
Let me weigh in on this, because I have a thought on this. I wouldn't rule it out, but here's what I'm thinking. All right. I think if Shane does anything, he's going to wait till after the Seattle game. And I'll tell you why. Because, all right, the Eagles, we know they're undefeated. What are they? They're like 6-0 right now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
If the Giants beat the Seahawks, they'll advance to 7-1. And now all of a sudden it's like, okay, they're keeping pace with the Eagles. So now
And you're
the
looking
bar
at
gets
you're looking at 9-1 with the next two games.
right. So you're basically you're raising the bar as to the number of wins you need to win this division. So if the Giants win against Seattle, and this is a big game, let's not
Huge, yeah.
let's not downplay this. If they win against Seattle, that's going to be huge. And if you're Shane, you got to say to yourself, okay, do we add another receiver, because we got a tough second half of the schedule? We got to win this division. We're going to face we're going to play 5 NFC East games, over the last, whatever, half of the season. If they lose, then I suspect, and I could be wrong here, that Shane will stand pat and just use the draft capital to get what he needs. But if they win, I could see them making a few calls around the league. Chase Claypool, what's it going to cost to get him? Jeudy would be the guy to keep an eye on, because Jeudy played for
Alabama.
Daboll at Alabama, so he knows him. And you see how these guys that Daboll and Shane are familiar with are coming in. That's the guy I would keep an eye on. If Denver doesn't go and ask for the sun, moon, and the stars, which they shouldn't, because Jeudy has had kind of like an underwhelming career so far. Not totally his fault. He's had injuries, a revolving door of coaches, quarterbacks, offensive coordinators, kind of like what Daniel Jones has had. So maybe the Giants can say, hey, he hasn't really produced much, but if they get him into a stable environment, maybe Jeudy can finally recognize the potential that everybody thinks he has.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you. I think the Giants, if they win, it significantly ups the potential. I think they still could, even if they lose this game, but obviously it ups it a lot more if they win, because then you're looking at 9-1 more than likely. You're literally playing the two worst teams in the league off a bye
at home,
the Houston Texans and the Detroit Lions. So you have to figure, if you're the GM, we're going to be 9-1 before we get to the divisional opponents. But I think it has to make sense too. I don't think Shane's just going to blindly force a trade. I think it has to be a guy that they could bring in for a reasonable price in terms of not giving up significant draft capital. And it has to be a guy that fits not just their scheme, but also the long-term vision of the football team. It has to be like, I don't see Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks is like 30 years old. I don't see the Hopkins people have brought up. I don't see that. He's like 30 years old. It's got to be like a Jeudy. It's got to be
a young guy who's on his rookie contract.
On his rookie contract.
And the cap numbers, I worked at, sorry, Chris, I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah.
The cap numbers, I worked them out. I have an article in Giants Country, what's next for the Giants after trading Toney or something like that. I worked it out. Basically, you're not talking a big swing in the cap. I know the Giants cap situation is very delicate right now. I think they have like 2.8 million in cap space, before this trade takes place or is counted against the books. So you're not talking a big swing. That's why you want to go for somebody who's maybe in their rookie contract. You don't have to worry about paying the signing bonus. You just have to worry about the base. And right now, the rookie bases, they're low. So it makes all the sense in the world to try and go for a guy like a Judy or a Claypool if the price is right and if the Giants win.
Yeah, and if you get a guy that you really feel fits, all of a sudden you're looking at next year, you're saying he's and the other valuable thing, if you could bring him in here for like a 4th round pick or a 3rd round pick, I don't know what the market would be, but if you get him in here for a reasonable price, the other thing you could say to yourself, next year, all of a sudden, say we get Jerry Jeudy, for example, all of a sudden, Jerry Jeudy now, he goes into next year with some chemistry with Daniel Jones. He's now familiar with this offense. You don't have to spend the first 5-6 weeks of them getting on the same rapport of him having to learn this offensive scheme. If you could bring in a young wide receiver like Jeudy, you could say, listen, this guy's going to now get to play with Daniel Jones for 9-10 weeks in pressure-filled games. They're going to get some chemistry together. And then next year 2 in Daniel Jones for the offense and really year 2 for, we'll just throw Jeudy in this example. Those guys are going to hit the ground running. They're already going to have the chemistry. Judy's going to be very familiar with what this team's looking to do from an offensive standpoint. So if you could get him in here for the right price, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Absolutely. Also, you got to think not only the games, practices. You have a full training camp with those 2 guys and everything else. So he'd really be able to get acclimated. And by the time week 1 came around, definitely hit the ground running. I mean, listen, that guy was a 1st round pick for a reason. I think it was a 2nd receiver taken. I think it was taken right behind Henry Ruggs, if I'm not mistaken, that year. And that was the year. Was that the year CeeDee Lamb came out? I think there's a lot of good receivers that particular year. I think that was the year with Ruggs and CeeDee Lamb. And Jeudy obviously was a monster at Alabama. So again, there's talent. And even as Giants fans, and I listen, I completely admit here with the Daniel Jones thing, because Lord knows I've been getting killed about how I was critical of Daniel Jones. Even though when he first came out, I thought he could do it. Then I've been all over the place with him. But it shows that sometimes a guy doesn't show up until he's in the right situation.
Yeah,
I never thought Daniel Jones could do what he's doing. I just didn't think he had it in him. But obviously, whatever Coach Daboll and Kafka and company are teaching him, and he's picking it up and he's learning it, it's worked. So if you do get Jerry Jeudy in here, just using him as an example, and he can be with the Giants, and it's a stability and it's a good culture, and it's a good locker room, and he can, showcase his talent that made him a 1st round pick out of Alabama. The Giants could really have something there. I mean, he was a number 1 receiver at Alabama.
I want to get your guys. I think a perfect, and I'm not saying he'd become this, but a guy that was in a very similar circumstance to where he is now was Amari Cooper.
Yeah,
Amari Cooper, before he got traded to the Cowboys, people were on the outs with him. They were like, this guy was that was a bad pick. And that's what I mean. I think the Cowboys gave up a 1st round pick, which at the time I thought they overpaid.
I did too.
So maybe, it's a situation like that, because people think about Cooper when he was with the Cowboys. Before he got to the Cowboys, the 2 years before he got there, he wasn't doing very well.
Right. And the other benefit of getting Jeudy is the Giants are going to need multiple receivers. I think we could all agree on that. So if you get a guy in here and you get him acclimated, now that's one less need you have to address in the draft. You still got to get a receiver, but now you don't have to get 2. You can maybe say, okay, we don't need a 1st round receiver or a receiver in the 1st round because Judy's our guy. And I'm just using him as an example. So now maybe we spend that 1st round pick on, I don't know.
Cornerback.
Whatever position.
Linebacker. Let's go linebacker for the first time.
Yeah, why not? Let's go linebacker. It sounds good to me. So there's a lot of advantages to doing it if it can happen. Now, Schoen is racking up draft picks. Now here's the other thing to keep in mind. He just picked up 2 more draft picks. So he had, I think, 7. Did he have 6? I think he had before this. So now he's got 8. He's going to get 2 additional picks in the comp round. Yep. He's racking them up, folks. Now I get it. They're not, 1st, 2nd, 3rd rounders, but they're bargain chips that he can use to hop around. And we saw how he hopped around last year in the 3rd round, the late day 2 of the draft. So Shane's kind of, there's a method to his madness here, I think. And that's to rack up the draft picks and just see what you can do to get them. And I would fully expect him, I know we're getting way, way ahead of ourselves here, but I could see him wheeling and dealing in the draft next year, like he did, this past year. No
100%.
question.
And listen, a good GM makes their money in those later rounds. I mean, you shouldn't miss on your top 10 picks. You should nail those guys.
Absolutely.
Same thing on the second round. You can miss, but you pretty much know what you have. It's the GMs really make their money when you find those guys third through sixth round. They don't make any money. They're not the top prospects. Sometimes they fly under people. Like Daniel Bellinger is a perfect example. I mean, it's a shame what happened to him, and just a fluke. Yeah. Andrew, I still don't know how they didn't call a flag on a guy who has his eyeball ripped out of his socket, but that is what it is. But how good was
the
he?
Officiating was
fourth-round pick, a rookie tight end, a fourth-round pick, and he came in here and he was so good at what he did, and that's great value. So that's what you're putting in trust when you get more draft picks, even if they are a compensatory third-round pick or a sixth-round pick. You get the right GM, and he can hit on one of those picks. It just, the more picks you have later in the draft, the more likely you are to find that diamond in the rough. That Shaw type of guy, or Victor Cruz is an undrafted free agent, or even not, you're going to find a Tom Brady in the sixth round. So, Russell Wilson went in the third round. Dak Prescott went in the fourth round. So the more picks you have later in the draft, the better opportunity you have to find that guy.
Absolutely. All right, listen, folks, we got to take a quick break. I have to run a couple commercials. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. We'll still have more about the Toney trade, and we've got some other stuff we need to talk about too. We got a game coming up this week, which is a big game. So stick around. We'll be right back after this. Hey, Giant fans, home burglaries and intruder breaches are unfortunately on the rise. Don't let the bad guys win. Build up your best defense with a customized system from SimpliSafe. Used and trusted by thousands of people, SimpliSafe is cutting-edge technology powered by 24/7 professional monitoring agents who always have your back. SimpliSafe's agents call you the moment a threat is detected and will even dispatch the appropriate first responders to your residence, even if you're not home. So don't risk your family's safety. Put SimpliSafe's 24/7 professional monitoring and advanced response technology to work for you today. Visit simplisafe.com/LockedOnNFL to customize your system at a special listener discount of 20% off. Plus, get your first month of interactive monitoring for free. That's simplisafe.com/LockedOnNFL for your customized 20% discounted security system and first month of interactive monitoring free. Hey, Giant fans, thank you for making the Locked On Giants podcast your first listen of the day. For your second listen, please go and check out Locked On Sports today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Welcome back to Locked On Giants Live. You got Entertainah, and the dog. We are talking New York Giants. You like when I say that, don't you?
Dog.
The dog. Hey, listen, I got to develop a catchphrase here.
Yeah, I got you.
I can't do stand like Chris does, so I got to come up with my own.
Well, we could practice after the stream if you want.
Right.
No, my husband's going to yell at me. He makes fun of me actually when I try to do it. He's like, "Come up with your own catchphrase." So I said, "How does Entertainah and the dog sound?" He goes, "Now you're talking." So
the dog.
The dog. Oh man. So anyway, again, welcome back and welcome to everybody who's checking us out for the first time. We appreciate you. Get your questions into the box. I know some of you have been posting questions and we've been kind of, covering the whole Kadarius Toney story. So if we missed it, please come back and ask us your questions and we'll sprinkle them in as we go along on the show. Guys, the Giants, they do have a big, game this week. Let's talk a little bit about that, the expectations, the concerns we have. I mean, Kenneth Walker's a big concern for me, but here's another concern that I'm a little worried about is the offensive line in that 12th man environment. That stadium is loud, folks. I've been in that stadium before. It is loud. You got two new offensive linemen that are going to play for Bredesen at left guard. You'll have the rookie Joshua Ezeudu. right tackle, it'll probably be Tyree Phillips. I'm a little concerned about some false starts. I mean, am I crazy for thinking that?
No.
Yeah, that's a good point you bring up about the full starts, because that's something that's been working for us while we're at home. Our crowd's been a lot louder this year, and yeah, they're gonna have to be disciplined. I didn't even think about that, but that's a really good point. Loud stadium. They built the stadium specifically to make more noise on the field. In terms of the way that they constructed it, I remember hearing about that. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be a harsh environment. Seattle's playing very well. They're coming off a very good win against the Chargers, in which they won by 14 points. But I don't know. I just feel weird this week, because I feel like, and this year I've been very conservative in terms of my feelings about the Giants week to week, and I haven't tried to go crazy in terms of picking them. And I think we're going to win this week. I actually,
I hope so.
And I worry against their run. There's no doubt about it. Our run defense has been really bad, really bad. The best way to hide that is going to be to do what we've been doing on offense, long drives, keep that offense off the field. And against Seattle, I think we're going to be able to do it. Seattle's defense is not good.
Yeah,
and I think we're going to be able to do it. So,
and just real quick before Dog jumps in here, Walker is averaging nearly 4 yards after contact. The tackling on defense has been, it hasn't been very good. I mean, Tate Crowder, I think, according to Pro Football Focus,
tough game.
He's tough to bring down. So those are the two areas I think I'm most concerned with. Everybody's like, well, what about Geno Smith? Geno, I admire him for what he's doing. Don't get me wrong. But if you were to ask me what are the two areas of the scheme that I'm most concerned about, I don't think it's going to be an easy game by any stretch of the imagination.
We don't play easy games, no matter who the opponent is.
Walker is out. Somebody just said Walker's out.
No,
is that
Walker's
true?
not out. Metcalf is out.
Metcalf is out. I was going to say, I don't remember seeing Walker
towards being out. I don't know if that's official, but it sounds like he's going to be out.
Yeah, I mean, he's on the injury report. I'll take a look, but
that'd be a big loss for them.
Hold on, I'll take a look. I've got the injury report that just was here, but I'm pretty sure Walker's not out.
No, Walker's not out. I can tell you.
I don't even think he's on the. Is he even on the?
No,
he's not even on the injury report.
Yeah,
you're thinking of? Are you thinking of? Penny. The Rashad Penny, I think that might be who he was thinking of, but Walker's not even on the. Metcalf didn't participate. The Hawks had Metcalf didn't participate. Not Walker's in. So I didn't see who said that, but anyway, my point being is the tackling hasn't been that great by the Giants. It's been sloppy at times. They better wrap this guy up. I mean, I'm worried about that. I'm worried about the offensive line. And by the way, how are they going to replace Daniel Bellinger in this offense? Any ideas?
Tanner Hudson.
I
don't know. I don't know what else.
Dog, what are you doing on Sunday? Can you go out there with them?
I'm a little small to be playing the tight end, and I'm old. I'm actually way too old to be.
What if you and Chris kind of merge into one person? Do you think the two of you can take it?
If we last maybe a play, and that'd be the end of it. Then
we brought back Andre Miller too.
Everybody be on Twitter go, man, those guys are soft. They can't stay in the field. But yeah, to me, there's a couple things about Seattle. Number one, you can't really have a longer flight than going from Florida to Seattle. Thank God the Giants won that game, because that would have been such an even longer flight, and I would have felt so bad for Saquon Barkley, who went out of bounds 3 times. Twice he could have avoided it and gave them extra timeouts. It's Barkley going out of bounds, the officials. There was a lot of things that were giving Jacksonville every opportunity. They came about 12 inches short of beating us, so I'm glad that the flight was a lot easier to take when you win. I forgot where I was going with that. There was that, and then you guys were talking about the line. So the running game and Kenneth Walker. There's a Heisman candidate for a while there at Michigan State. He had a big game against Michigan last year. I remember that. Do you think it's possible that this week Wink Martindale decides we're going to bring an extra guy up? Maybe Landon Collins. Maybe they use him more as a box safety, as a linebacker type of guy. Because without DK Metcalf, he don't play. Wouldn't you rather take your chances with Geno Smith throwing to the other receivers as opposed to allowing Kenneth Walker to beat you? Kind of like sometimes we hadn't really seen a stacked box against Saquon Barkley until this week against Jacksonville in the first half. It seemed like they were stacking the box more. So is it possible that Landon Collins is a bigger part of the game plan this week, bringing him up as that box safety, bringing him up as that 7th or 8th man and saying, all right, you know what? If you're going to beat us, Geno, you beat us. We're not going to let Kenneth Walker run wild on us. We're going to take our chances with Geno Smith. And if he beats us, you just tip your cap and say, okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a very good point. Or, I don't know, would Wink even say, you know what, we'll just give up the yardage and we'll try and shut them down elsewhere. Because I think that's what they did. That was part of what they did against the Ravens, if I'm not mistaken. They focused on not letting Lamar Jackson beat
Drake
them.
killed us.
Yeah. So I mean,
I think that's exactly what they're going to do. By the way, I think
what Dog said.
That has to. I don't know what. Maybe it's not Collins, but yes, they're going to stack the box. They have to. I mean, they're missing Metcalf, and I recognize that Geno Smith's been good this year, but with how bad our run defense has been this year and how good their run offense has looked, and the fact that the Giants are a team that traditionally really wants to control the clock, you can't let Seattle just have 8-9 minute drives down the field every time. So I think they're going to do everything in their power to force Geno Smith to throw the football, which means we're probably going to have a very similar defensive game plan to what Jacksonville had against us last week.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get some of these questions in here. IO, independent outsider, could Toney trade motivate Golladay to change his habits? Yeah, we actually were talking about that before the commercial break. We were talking about how Golladay sounds more motivated, sounds like he has a fire lit underneath him. You know, it's not very often that, you know, you can't assume that your team's going to be 6-1 or start out 6-1 every year. So when that opportunity comes, you've got to seize it. You don't know when your next winning season is going to be. So yeah, I definitely think that Golladay, you know, is going to come back and hopefully be a little bit more motivated and a little bit more productive than he's been. You know, we'll see. I think, you know, Golladay, we're not going to see him until probably week 10, week 11. He's getting close from what I hear, but you know, what does close mean exactly? I just know he's not playing this week. So
right. And then we have the bye, and then we have a couple games where we probably could win without him. If he gets healthy for the Dallas game, I think that'd be big for us.
Yes, you want, and that's the other thing, you want to have all hands on deck for that Dallas game. And you know, it's interesting. I just, you know, this is kind of going off a little off topic here, but one of the things I've been fascinated with was how the Giants have been handling the guys who are on PUP and IR and their return. You know, because you look at them and you say, okay, the Giants got some injuries at receiver. So why haven't they put anybody down on IR? Well, because it costs money to bring somebody in from the outside. So they've been kind of strategically planning when guys are healthy enough, when to bring them off of PUP or IR. You know, Matt Parrott was finally, the window was open on him. Nick Gates, thank God he's back. I'm so happy for him that he's back. So now, you know, you have 2 offensive linemen down. Gates can step in and be a guard if you need him to, once he builds up that stamina, the football stamina. So I just like the way the Giants have kind of been doing this. You know, the cap is still a problem, and that's why they haven't gone crazy with bringing in guys. Basically been sticking with guys they practice squad.
Yeah, but whatever they've been doing, it's obviously been working. You know, there's no question. But Golladay would be a huge addition. I mean, he's that big target. When we got him, I was extremely happy because I'm like, oh, there's Daniel Jones's Plexico Burris. You know, that's what I know that's what a lot of Giants fans. So you got your big body receiver, a guy that goes up and catches the contested 50-50 balls, a guy that's a good red zone target. And unfortunately, it just, you know, it hasn't worked for Golladay. But like I said, sometimes you have that aha moment where it's like, wow, I better get my stuff together. And I think trading Kadarius Toney could be like, wow, I got to look at myself in the mirror, because if they're willing to get rid of that guy, then there's no question that they can move on from me.
Oh, they're going to. I think everybody. I think Golladay knows it too.
At year's end.
All right. Nice Giant fan asks, what is the difference between a regular pick and a compensatory pick? A comp pick basically, all right, there's actually 2 types of comp picks. In this case, with Toney, the comp pick that the Chiefs gave, they received from the league because they developed Ryan Poles, who was considered a minority candidate, and he was hired by the Chicago Bears to be a GM. So I think teams that develop minority candidates who go on to become GMs or high-ranking officials, head coaches and whatnot, then the team that developed them gets a comp pick. That's how that you know, they're trying to increase diversity, I guess. So that's one comp pick. Other comp picks are when you sign more guys. I'm sorry, when you lose more guys than when you sign. So the Giants are going to, I think they're projected to get a 7th, and I want to say a 6th. I'm not sure if it's a 5th. Okay, it was a 5th. Yeah. So it there's a formula involved, and over the cap, Nick Corte does a great job of breaking it down. He understands the formula way better than I ever will. And he projects the comp picks every year, and he's been spot on with projecting the comp picks. So the regular pick is just basically, wherever you end up picking in the draft order, that's your pick. So that's a regular pick versus a comp pick. I hope that clarifies that for you. So
yeah, and usually, and you may have said it or not, but just in case you didn't, also what a comp pick is, it's at the back end of the round that you get.
Right.
So,
yes.
Right.
And they're tradable this time. Under the new CBA, they are tradable. Last CBA, they were not tradable.
Yeah. So for example, we got the 3rd round comp pick, and I don't know how it works with the GMs. I would guess it's probably behind the free agent comp picks of the 3rd round. So it's probably going to be like in the 100 to 105 range. That's probably what the pick's going to be. It's not going to, it's going to be obviously after 96, because it's 32 times 3 is 96. And then you get to your comp pick. So it's in between rounds 3 and 4. So it's probably like pick 103, 104, something like that.
Right. All right. Keck Penn asked, did you guys see Kadarius Toney cuss out the fan in DMs on Twitter and said he didn't fake his injuries?
I mean, I showed you what he said to me, so I could only imagine what he said to a lot of
like I said, I had a guy DM me on Instagram and showed me his back and forth with Kadarius Toney. I don't know if that's the same guy, but yeah, it pretty much did. The guy told him go make, he pretty much said stop crying and just play in Kansas City. Then Kadarius Toney said something, and then the dude said he said go make another rap song and fake more injuries. It's like, I never faked injuries, but a lot of swearing involved in that.
Right. And this is what I mean about maturity. Let it go. Look, Twitter for the most part, at least I'm speaking for myself. Most of my followers on Twitter are great. And I love interacting with them. But every so often you get trolls.
Mm-hmm.
You ignore them. That's what the mute button's for. That's what the block button is for. You
Right.
make use of it. Trust me, your Twitter feed will be a lot nicer. And that is something Kadarius Toney, for whatever reason, he feels the need to defend himself and clap back at trolls. And all that does is give them more ammunition to come at him. That's something he's going to learn as he gets older and as he matures. But right now, you got to remember, how old is this guy? 21, 22 years old? He's still kind of young. Yeah. So,
he blocked me. I didn't even say anything to him. I ain't even messing with that guy. I ain't even going back and forth with him. I'm just getting rid of him.
Well,
I think he clearly watched our show. Because why else would he have blocked you?
It's always been strange to me, because I'm like I said, I didn't even follow him on Twitter.
And then it's weird. Like years ago, Odell blocked me, but I was kind of along with Odell. Odell, actually, we used to talk all the time. It was somebody from Odell's team that did. So who knows? Maybe it was somebody from Kadarius's team that did it.
Like you said, I mean, I don't blame him. It's not like I was being complimentary of Tony, but it just was weird that he found the tweet or found me is what it was.
I wouldn't sweat it.
I don't sweat it. I was like,
the guy's moved on. But as long as I'm not blocking you, that's all that matters.
Yeah, we're good. I'm not worried about some Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver.
There you go. There you go. My man, Big Dash. Big Dash knows. Do they rotate the running backs to preserve Barkley's shoulder? You know what, Dash? They have been integrating Matt Breida a little bit more to help with giving Barkley a blow. So, yeah, I could see that being the case. Absolutely. The bye week is going to be a godsend for guys like Saquon Barkley, because all these guys who have little bumps and bruises are going to get a chance to heal up. Yep. And what a time to heal up, because like I said, in the second half of the season, you've got 5 division games that you got to come out on top of, and they ain't going to be easy, folks.
Nope. 5 out of our last 7 games are against divisional opponents, and 2 against Philadelphia. So
2 against Washington, though, who actually is looking better, I will say.
Yeah. Well, Washington's no, like I said, nobody's easy for us. You never take a division game for granted. So
right.
We got our work cut out. That's what happened to Washington last year. They had all those divisional games at the end of the year.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I think the Giants did too, didn't they? Didn't they play a lot of their division games towards the end of the year?
I know we played some at the beginning. I'll be honest with you, Pat. I tried to block last year out of my mind, so I don't really remember.
I don't blame you, man. I don't blame you. I try to block it out too, but unfortunately, I have to go back and refer to it every so often. Right. But anyway, the Big Moo wants to know, when do you think Gates will play? Daboll said he's ready to go. He's ready to go and that he was activated, but I'm thinking I don't know if he's going to be active this week. He might be active this week, but I think, it's funny. I was talking with somebody. This is a carbon copy of Rich Seibert all over again, right down to the last
Yeah.
detail. Okay.
I think you mentioned that last week on this show.
Gates and Seibert, both undrafted free agents. They both had to make the team. They both worked their way into the starting lineup. They both suffered horrific leg injuries, fought their way back. So according to the script that Seibert laid out, the next step for Gates is he's going to be that jumbo tight end. And that's how they're going to work him in. Now, next year, I think that's when he's going to compete for a starting job if he is re-signed. Remember, this is the last year of his contract.
Yeah.
So if he is re-signed, I think Gates, they're going to have an opening at center. Left guard, I don't know what they're going to do there. Are they going to have Lemieux or are they going to have Izudu?
Or
I kind of think, I don't. Bredesen might be. Is he in his last year too, or has he got?
He
another
might
year?
be, but he's played decent. Maybe they bring him back on a cheap deal. It's
Or and if not, they've got, like I said, they've got Izudu on a rookie deal, and they could probably get Gates on a cheap deal too. I mean, one thing, and I've been saying this because I don't know if the Giants are going to have enough money to get themselves through the last, 11 weeks or so of the season. Maybe look to extend Gates now. And I know it's a risk. I know what you guys are thinking. Why do it when the guy's been injured? I think they could get that cap number lower and get some money because you don't want to touch the Kenny Golladay contract if you can help it. And quite honestly, folks, I don't know where else they're going to get the money from. I've looked up and down, and I'm telling you, short of
I'll give you some theories of where they could get money from. I don't want to get your opinion.
Are you going to donate, Chris?
I wish. But no,
I was going to say maybe Shane will have to do it.
But maybe I'll get him a lunch or two.
As far as Gates goes, I think Gates is coming back. You're talking about Daboll, you're talking about Shane, he like fits the mold of what they want on this football team, and it'll be a cheap deal because he's coming off an injury. But I think they're going to bring him back, and he's very valuable coming off the bench.
And he'll do it. He would do it.
Oh, he'd definitely do it.
He would show up and play for free. That's how much this guy loves the game.
And he can play all three positions. So I think he's very valuable as a guy coming off the bench because there's going to be injuries. In terms of what I could see them doing with the cap next year, of course, like you said, Golladay. Outside of that, there's not much they could do in terms of cutting people, but I think they could extend players. I think they could extend,
and I think they will.
Leonard Williams, for example, who's going $32 million against the cap next year. They could go to Leo and say, listen, we're going to give you 3 more years of stability. We like you. We think you fit this defense very well. We'll pay you $20 million a year, $22 million a year, but we'll spread it out over those 3 years. And instead, so that's a way they could save some cap next year. And the market's only going to go up in terms of the salary cap. So it could make sense if the deal makes sense. So that's a guy they could extend and try to alleviate some cap pressure this year. There's things they could do to create some cap space if need be.
But this year is the trick.
Well, this year, I mean, come on.
I mean, they already had to play one game where I think they only had 51 on the roster.
No, this year you got nothing.
I don't know where they're going to get.
Thank you, Dave Gettleman. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
What about I'm still like Dory Jackson? Is that possible?
Didn't
they could extend him possibly?
They could, but didn't they give him a restructure?
They backordered his contract a bit to give him some more.
I mean, he could be someone, but why am I thinking that
he's only got one more year left in the deal after this year? So they could, if they identify him as a long-term piece, they could give him an extension.
And he likes it here, as far as I know. I mean, that's what he tells me at any rate. So I mean, why not?
Yeah.
But yeah, they're going to have to. I don't know where Shane's going to get the money. I for some reason I'm thinking they already did something with Jackson's contract, but I'd have to go back and look.
No, you're right. They committed further salary to him next year.
Okay, all right. So we'll see. We'll see where they get it from, because I don't know where it's coming from, unless, like I said, we take up a collection here and maybe kick some money in towards it. I don't know, but all right. Amazing Guy wants to know, how long will Bellinger be out? Indefinitely. We don't have a time frame on him. I want to say his surgery, was it scheduled for this week or early next week? I can't remember now. But I know it's coming up if it hasn't already taken place. And, obviously the swelling's going to have to go down. They're going to have to test the vision. So they don't really have a timetable on that. I don't think we'll see Bellinger. If I had to take a guess, and I could see them maybe even, putting him on IR and bringing up, one of the tight ends that they have on the practice squad as a possibility. I mean, they're going to have to bring somebody up. I don't think they go into this game with just 2 tight ends. on Sunday. And
I think Miller's going to play, from what I heard.
Yeah, I possibly
Yeah.
if he's healthy, why not? I mean, he was looking pretty good in camp before he broke
He
his
looked
wrist.
really
So
good in camp.
yeah, so that's a possibility, and they're going to have to open a roster spot. I don't, or do they have one open? See, I know they like to leave roster spots open. I lost track. I can't. I think they. Well, yeah. Now that they traded Toney, they definitely have a roster spot open. So I'm sure they'll fill it up. They've been opening spots, leaving them open during the week, and then they fill them towards the end of the week. So we'll see what they end up doing tomorrow. But all right. Brandon Swan has a question. We have Leonard Williams back, and Dexter Lawrence has been playing great. Why is our run defense struggling so much? Does it all boil down to inside linebackers? Brandon, great question. I actually covered this with David Turner on, I think it was this past Monday's show, or it might have been 2 Mondays ago. The run fits haven't been there. Guys aren't filling gaps the way they need to. There's been tackling issues, like I've alluded to. I think Tate Crowder leads the team with 11 missed tackles. So it's a variety of things. It's not one real reason. And part of that is you've had guys in and out of the lineup because of injuries. So that could be part of it too. I asked David, I said, David, how does Leonard Williams look to you? And he said, he's coming back off of an injury, so he can't, maybe he couldn't really anchor that leg as he could have, prior to the injury. So it's a variety of things, I think. And
yeah, the other thing I'll say, and this is just me thinking about it, but I feel like we've been running a lot more multiple DB sets. So that kind of lends itself maybe to worse run defense, because you need more speed out there to cover guys in terms of tight ends and running backs coming out of the backfield as pass catchers, but you don't have the traditional linebacker out there, right? Because we've had some sets where we don't even have linebackers, where we have 4 or 5 safeties. So a lot of times we've gone with a smaller lineup, which may have something to do with it as well. But obviously we don't have a lot of talent at the linebacker spot.
Right. And like you mentioned last week, it was obviously a plan to stop Lamar Jackson. I mean, that was the thing. You let Kenyon Drake have his yards, and you try to stop Lamar Jackson, which what they did in the second half. And again, that's, we talked about it earlier with the Seattle game about how they might bring up an extra guy like Atlanta Collins, maybe not Atlanta, but that type of thing where they bring an extra guy up into the box. But then again, they might not. Maybe they make that adjustment. Maybe they see how it plays if they just play a straight up defense in the first half. And if Kenneth Walker's killing them, then they bring that extra guy up, or vice versa. Who knows? But the one thing we've seen the entire year from this team is the ability to make adjustments in the second half, because last year it was like we went the complete opposite. Even when Pat Shermer was here, it seemed like every time we had something going good, like they either didn't make an adjustment or they adjusted the wrong way, and the second half was a complete wash. This year, it seems like we've been behind every game, and then we get into the second half, and all of a sudden everything changes and they figure it out. So, I think Chris mentioned last time, it's kind of like a prize fight. You just kind of lull them to sleep a little bit, make them think they got something. And then before you know it, it's completely different. What was working before doesn't work now. So it'll be interesting to see how they go about this. But you really do have to make a concerted effort to stop Kenneth Walker, especially if DK Metcalf's not there. Yeah. So, and again, Geno Smith is a nice story this year, but there's a reason that his career ended up being the way it was. Make him beat you. Like I said, if he does, he does. It's kind of like when you play the Titans. You stop Derrick Henry. If Ryan Tannehill beats you, he beats you. And I think people look at the Giants and go, you know what? We're stopping Saquon Barkley. If Daniel Jones beats us, he beats us. But Daniel Jones has been beating people.
Yeah.
So,
hey, if Geno beats us, you tip your cap.
Yeah.
Right.
Good for Geno.
Yep,
I mean,
that's exactly what it is.
Obviously you want the Giants to win, but if he beats you fair and square, it is what it is.
You got to take away their best player, and that's
exactly
probably Kenneth Walker at this point.
Exactly. All right. Give 2 asks, do you think Bellinger's injury, they could go after the tight end in Miami? I don't see it happening. Not for the money that's involved. I don't think it can work cap wise.
Who, Gesicki?
So, no.
Yeah.
Gesicki, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he signed a pretty healthy contract.
It's a healthy contract. They can't fit it into the cap.
Yeah, so that's
so no, I don't see that happening.
That's what makes what Shane and Brandon Brown and company have. It's been amazing because they've had zero flexibility with the cap. Zero.
I know. I don't know how
they're able to find these guys and get them to Purdue. It's unbelievable. I keep thinking to myself, God, what can Shane do with a couple of his own drafts and actual money?
Yes,
to get guys that he wants in here.
And I love, and I wrote an article about how Buffalo structured some of their bigger contracts. I'll probably revisit it, but Oh, I can't wait to see how some of these bigger contracts are structured. They're going to be night and day, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to see stuff in contracts. I guarantee you this. You will see stuff in giant contracts that the Giants give out that the previous regimes never even thought to do.
That's what I mean. I know it's like nerdy, but that's a big part of my off-season content is discussing the contracts that they make. And
I do it all the time.
And I'm looking forward to seeing the difference between what the Dave Gettleman and Kevin Abrams era did in comparison to the Joe Schoen era. So that's something I'm actually really looking forward to seeing how they structure these new salaries.
I might devote a show. I haven't thought about it, but I'll see if my viewers are interested in it. I might just do a whole show on the salary cap because I get a lot of questions about how it works, structures and stuff like that. So maybe just do like a kind of like a live show where you can ask questions and I can try and answer some of them, about the salary cap. But that's for the off season. We got a lot of football still to come. And speaking of a lot of football, we got to take one last break. I got a minute-long ad I have to run, and then we'll be back. We'll talk some more. We'll take more of your questions. Don't go anywhere, everybody. Now a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. Life can be challenging and put a strain on our mental health when things happen that are beyond our control. Seeking the expertise of a licensed professional to help guide us towards a resolution is the key to overcoming life's ups and downs. So if you're thinking of giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. It's a convenient, accessible, affordable, and entirely online service. Get matched up with a therapist after filling out a brief survey. And if you find that you're not a match for your assigned therapist, you can switch anytime. When you want to be a better problem solver, therapy can help get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. All right, everybody. Welcome back to LockedOn Giants Live. Traina, Tana, and Dog.
That was better.
The dog.
I am getting there.
That was better. It was more short, more sweet. I liked it.
I was trying to sound smooth,
Yeah, it was smooth. It was good.
I'm trying to find the right voice, the right tone.
I think you got to kind of meet in the middle. The first one was too long of a dog. This one was like too quick of a dog. You need a healthy medium.
We'll
work on it. We'll work on it.
I got to summon back my Brooklyn. I used to have a Brooklyn accent, even though I never lived in Brooklyn. My parents were from Brooklyn. And, obviously that's all I heard growing up. And over the years that they lost their accent and whatever accent I had, I lost. So people are like, oh, you have the typical Jersey accent. I'm like, I don't know. What is a Jersey accent? I don't think I have it, but
I know when Chris started, he had a much thicker accent than he does now. I remember that. It was much thicker.
Gosh.
Yes.
He's been hanging out with me too long. He's starting to get a little upstate accent now.
Well, it's funny because sometimes when I'm talking to people, when I have guests on the show and they have an accent, like especially the Southern accent, pretty soon I start saying y'all and I started picking up some.
I mix in a y'all every now and again too, and I never said that before I was on YouTube. But like you said, it's sometimes you just see it so much in the chat, you're like you say y'all. But
I know. Like when we went to the Giants game a couple of years ago, definitely that I started talking with that accent. Like it's there. I just because I live in upstate New York, I don't really speak with it. But when I get around a bunch of people that do have it, there it is. It's just weird how that works.
I'm bad at faking accents. I just people say, believe it or not, I get criticism about my voice, and I don't have a radio voice. I admit it, but you know what? My voice is my voice. It ain't changing. Right. This is what it is. I think most of my thoughts are pretty sound. Once in a while, I know I throw a clunker out there. Nobody's perfect, but this is it. What you see is what you get. What you hear is what you get.
One of our subscribers tells us all the time, Chris and I have faces for radio all the time.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, he's been with us a long time. Our guy, he's from London. Our buddy Stephen Lilly. It's awesome.
Well, they had to drag me into doing YouTube because I was so reluctant to do it. But here I am. We're doing it. We're having a great time. We're over. By the way, I have to give a shout out. I have to thank everybody. LockedOn Giants hit over 1 million downloads between just the audio part. Now, I didn't check the YouTube, but I'm sure we're up there. It's got to be at least 1.5 million. So thank y'all from the bottom of. See, there I go again.
There y'all. It was.
Thank you from the bottom of my heart for making this show so successful. I hope you guys enjoy Locked On Live as well as all the shows we're doing. Got some great content coming up during the bye week. I'll let you know what it is as we finalize schedules, but I'm working on some really, really cool guests for you guys and gals. And I think you will like some of these people that I'm planning to bring on. So that's coming up. All right, let's get back to your questions because that's what this is all about after all. Let's see. Amazing Guy has a question. Would you start Gates at right tackle over Phillips? No, not at this. First off, let's get Nick Gates into a game and let him get football hit. Yeah. Football conditions, one thing. And it's funny, Gates, I'll tell you guys a funny story. I'll give you a behind the scenes story because I know how much you guys like this stuff. I'm talking about Dog and Chris, and I'm sure some of you listeners. So Gates was activated, as you know, on Wednesday. And obviously the media were milling around his locker. We're waiting because, everybody wants to talk to him, get his reaction and everything. And he was nowhere to be found. And we're sitting there and we're saying, gosh, this is unusual because Gates had been at his locker all throughout the season. He was always there. I talked to him literally like once a week and he was nowhere to be found. So finally, somebody from the Giants says, I have a feeling I know where he is. And I said, okay, where do you think he is? He says, wait a second, I'm going to go check and I'll let you know if he's where I think he is. So the person left the locker room, checked, came back, and was nodding his head at me. I said, where is he? He goes, it's in the weight room. He's so excited and so itching to get back at her. Gates was putting in an extra lift. All right. This is how badly this guy wants to play again. And this is why I am not ashamed to say I root for the guy, even though I'm not supposed to root for anybody. Being a member of the media, I'm supposed to be objective. I can't help myself. Nick Gates, I hope that kid comes back and he wins a Super Bowl ring with this team. I really, really do.
Yeah. No, listen, Nick Gates, I put it on Twitter. He's one tough SOB. And he don't mind getting in the middle of it, sticking up for his quarterback, or he don't mind that. He likes that. That's that dog in him. He fits right in with this team. Like, I think his personality is perfect for what Brian Daboll and company are doing here. And I think Chris mentioned this, or you mentioned last week, Pat, we're not going to sit there and win on style points. We're going to take in a back alley and we're going to beat you down in quite a fight. That's just what it's going to be. It's going to be a scrum. It's going to be a brawl. It's going to be a war.
Back alley ball.
Nick Gates is the guy you want to go to war with.
Oh,
There's no question about it. You put me next to Andrew Thomas and Nick Gates, and I'll be the cleanest guy in the room.
Right.
And they're not too far apart, their lockers, too. I'm trying to think how many lockers they're separate. It might be one or two. And no, wait a minute. They might be next to each other now that I think about it. But the point being is, you're right. Nick Gates, when he's an enforcer.
Yes.
And Andrew Thomas, for as quiet and as soft-spoken as he is and very studious, because I've had conversations with him as well.
Very smart.
He's really smart. Yeah. But he's got some dog in him too.
Oh, I know he does.
Speak softly and carry a pancake block. That's Andrew Thomas.
Love it. We're going to have to put that on a t-shirt, dog. I love it. All right. Brick City 101. Who do you see coming out in the draft that could possibly be a great fit for the receivers? Brick City, I got to be honest with you. I don't look at the draft while the season's going on. I don't have time during the year
it's too early.
Like I would like to. It's too early. Ask us that question as we get towards the end of the season. And we start to learn who's.
Even then, I'm going to be honest with you.
I mean, as long as the Giants are still in it,
I'll wait till after the playoffs. It's going to be nice to actually.
Though. Reason being, we don't know what they're going to do in free agency. You don't know
exactly
what they're going to go in the draft. You don't know where we're picking, so it's tough.
It really is.
You haven't seen the combine receivers that are way up here can fall down, and vice versa. I mean, nobody had Trayvon Walker going number 1 overall before the combine. He blew the combine up number 1 overall. So it's really, really tough. There's a couple of receivers from USC that are. Mario Williams is really good. Mims from Oklahoma is really good. So, I mean, those are a couple of guys that I know offhand. But
it's way too.
You got that dude from I think
there's a lot that has to go on.
There's a guy from Tennessee that's really good, isn't he? He scored like 5 touchdowns a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember his name, but It's too early.
Yeah, I mean,
stuff.
we'll devote a lot of coverage to the draft when the time comes, folks. But right now, draft questions, maybe that's better off for the college. We have a
I
college
build in a
guys.
vacation week at work to cover the draft with Chris. I take a week
Okay.
off of work so we can do that.
All right, that's dedication. I love it. I mean, we're doing it. We start like in January or whenever the Giant season's over, we start.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have Nick Filato, I think, this year. He's going to do the draft profiles. He does a great job. I got Coach Gene Clemens going to probably do some stuff. So going to be fun. It's going to be a fun draft, and it's going to be a big one, especially like you were saying, Dog. Once we see what Shane does in free agency, now we can kind of see how it sets up. But
right, and this is the first year that he'll have his own scouts.
Exactly, and they'll be doing it their way, his way.
Yep.
So yes, that's a really good point. All right, Survivor Sam asks, does this trade save cap money for now? It does. Let me look it up because I wrote about it for Giants Country.
I think it's under $1 million. I read it.
It's definitely under $1 million. I will tell you what it is in 1 second because I wrote it for Giants Country. The article is what is the article title? What's next for the Giants following Kadarius Toney trade? And I talked about why the Giants made the move this soon. What are the salary cap ramifications? It's a post June 1st designation. So the Giants are going to be on the hook for the first 7 weeks of Toney's base salary at a rate of $71,311 per week. So that comes to just a hair under $500,000. The total savings is going to be about $784,430. Not a huge amount. That's why when we were talking about Jerry Jeudy, they could fit that in if they need to. I could see them fitting in, but whether they make that trade and we talked about it, earlier in the show, I think it all depends on what happens on Sunday. I want to see what happens on Sunday because if the Giants win, I could see Shane saying, "Okay, you know what? We might just have a chance at catching the Eagles.
And
maybe we fortify things here."
Yeah, and I think if you're trying to build a culture, which is what they're trying to do, and a winning culture. Again, it has to be the right deal. It can't be just forcing a trade to force a trade, but rewarding your players for playing hurt, for playing hard, for putting their best foot forward, for getting out to the start that they've done, exceeding all expectations, saying to them, no, we believe in you guys right now. Like that's what Brian Daboll's done all year. Week 1, we're going for 2. Them going out there and trading for a wide receiver, that's going to make these players want to continue to play harder for their head coach, play harder for this organization, saying, no, we're not. Yes, we still have a big eye on the future. We're trying to build sustained success. But if the right deal presents itself, we're willing to go out there and we believe in you guys right now. And I think that's important to instill that in these players.
Again, it's an added boost to their confidence. That look at it, I think we're good enough to win this division. I want to go out and get a receiver that's only going to improve our situation. And this offense, it's for the first time in years. Now, granted, our offense doesn't score a lot of points. It is what it is. We don't really have the most talent in this, at the wide receiver room. We just don't. These guys work really hard, but this is not Tyreek Hill. This is not Jamar Chase. It's not Jalen Waddle. He's not one of those guys. But you get a guy like a Jerry Jr., somebody that can open up the field for everybody else that can succeed even more. And these guys are going to say, look, man, this coach believes that we can do this. So he's trying to help this team get better. He's trying to help us win now. And as I said right at the beginning of the year, winning builds culture. You start winning games, you start believing, you believe in itself, you believe in each other. And it's a powerful thing, belief. It doesn't show up in a box score. It's not a statistic, but it makes a huge difference because there's no way anybody could tell me we're 6-1 2 years ago with the regime and the players we have. We'd be 1-6. So this team finds ways to win where the other teams found ways to lose. So, and not to mention a guy like Jerry Jeudy is an eye on the future. He's a guy that's still in his rookie deal and maybe they really like him and they keep him here and they can address something else in the draft. So if you go out and get a Jerry Jeudy, like you said, Pat, it's one less thing you got to worry about in the draft. Maybe you apply it to linebacker, cornerback, a place we're weak and get stronger there. So it's, Joe Schoen, they've done a great job so far, and I think they're going to continue to do a great job. And I really do think they're going to go after a wide receiver. I really do.
I would not be surprised. And I want to get to Jake's question in just a second, but I want to ask you guys something because when you were talking, you reminded me of something. Dave Gettleman, when he was here, talked about rebuilding and competing, competing while you rebuild. Shane has said the same thing, but yet Shane's Giants have been more successful at it. Do you attribute that more to the coaching, to the players? I mean, what do you guys attribute that to?
Definitely coaching stuff.
Coaching
starts with the coach. I mean, they have the same players.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they got
they got actually lesser players if you think about it.
I mean, so yeah, I mean, all you got to do is look at the players that have been playing on this team now for 3-4 years. Dexter Lawrence is a new player. Julian Love's a new player. Daniel Jones a new player. Shane Zimmerman is a new player. You go down the list. Fabian Moreau looks like a legitimate starting cornerback in the NFL.
Daniel Jones is a different player too. Don't forget that.
Yes, this is the coaching, 100%. And football, it is so true. I know it's like an old adage, but
right.
and it may sound corny, but football is a game of inches. Games are decided by a fraction each and every Sunday, and we see it every week with the Giants, and we've seen it in prior weeks when the Giants stunk. They lose a ton of close games. This is a team that is well coached, that is well prepared, that comes up big in those spots because their coaches put them in the right situations to succeed. Coaching goes a long way in the NFL, a long way in the NFL. Mm-hmm. There's a reason that all these teams are constantly picking at the back end of the draft, and they continue to stay there because they've got guys like Bill Belichick, Mike Tomlin, you name it, the best coaches in the league.
Harbaugh is another one.
Those guys. So, yeah, the coaching, 100%. But the thing is, I think these players always had talent. They just weren't put in the right situation to get the most out of it.
That's the thing. Yep. Yeah, you mentioned this last week that these guys, this coaching staff has like a plan B and a plan C and a plan D. I mean, I just look at the guys because you're thinking, oh my God, we lost Evan Neal. And Tyree Phillips comes in and does a great job. Outside of the first play where he kind of got burned inside, you didn't hear about him again. You didn't hear about Azudu. When you don't hear about a lineman, it's a good day.
Yes.
Because the only time you ever hear a lineman's name is if they're getting beat or it's a false start or a hold. You heard nothing about either one of those guys. Moreau is another example. These guys come in and it's like they're prepared. They have been prepared, whereas other guys, they come in and it's like they're lost. They weren't prepared. They didn't think they were going to play, whatever it was. A lot of times, as soon as somebody went down, someone else came in, they attacked a weak spot. It doesn't seem like we really fall off. Even when our best players go out to the guys behind them, they just know their job. They know what they got to do. And I believe, again, having belief in one another is, I know this guy's going to do his job. I'm not worried about it. I just have to focus on what I'm doing. And when everybody just focuses on their job as a team, you're going to succeed. Where I think last year, guys try to do too much. You get yourself out of position. You overcommit. You're getting burned.
That was Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones was guilty of doing too much. And that's why he got knocked around. Now he has confidence, I think, that Saquon's going to pick up the yards, that guys are going to get things done. And you see a difference in his play. So that's a great point, dog. Definitely.
His confidence. The confidence it's unbelievable. And every week you see Daniel Jones growing more and more as a leader.
Yep.
I know he didn't like that he yelled when Marcus Johnson
I was glad he did.
But I said, good for you. He's human. That was like the sixth drop. He should be aggravated. He didn't go up to him and yell at him in his face and make it a spectacle on the field. He turned around and like, catch the ball.
Yeah.
Good. To me, I'm like, that's confidence. He's confident. You can say, come on, man, I'm doing my job. Do yours. Let's go.
Eli always used to say, when a receiver would tick him off and wouldn't do their job or he didn't feel that they were doing their job the way they needed to, Eli would always remind them, I don't have to get you the ball, Right. Eli was very calculated and cool like that. It was kind of funny, and he would say it with a straight face, but you knew he meant it. Definitely.
But I saw that with Daniel Jones. I'm like, see, that's what I want to see. That's a competitor. That's a kid that wants to win.
He continues to share the blame. It's like, oh, Daniel, you're the NFC Offensive Player of the Week. How do you feel? Oh, it's a team. It's a team award.
Yeah.
This guy,
and he's Eli too in that regard.
He's everything you want in a quarterback.
He's exactly.
I'm not saying that he's Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen. I'm talking about his characteristics.
Right.
Everything you've heard about this guy since day one, since he got here. He's the hardest working guy in the building, which is what you want your quarterback to be. He's the first guy in, the first guy out. He is the first guy to shoulder the blame at any opportunity that he gets. And
just much like Eli used to do.
Much like Eli, who had every right to point at several other factors. He had Jason Garrett as offensive coordinator. He had an offensive line from the depths of hell. He's got wide receivers who can't hold on to the football. And this guy's always pointing the finger at himself. Then he wins this award. He wins these accolades. He says, well, that's not me. It's the preparation. That's a team award. The offensive line, the wide receivers, Saquon. He's pointing everybody but himself. I absolutely love seeing the growth from Daniel Jones, not just on the field, but off the field as well. He's becoming more and more
level,
of a leader on this football team.
I want to come back to Daniel Jones in a second. I want to get to Jake's question real quick, but I had something I wanted to ask you guys about Daniel Jones. Jake Patterson, what's the most reasonable trade offer you would offer Denver for Judy? I wouldn't go higher than a third, I don't think. I mean, and I get the impression that I'd be surprised if Shane wants to give up a day 2 pick. I don't, maybe a conditional fourth. I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think for that?
I don't know what his market's going to be. I honestly don't know.
Yeah, I mean, supposedly he's getting a lot of interest, but
I honestly think it'll cost at least a third.
Yeah. Would you rather
have
Claypool or Judy?
I'm thinking Judy only because Daboll knows him from the Alabama connection. Not that Claypool would be, that I would be unhappy with him, but I would think, just how this team has been rolling, they would probably go with, what they know would be my guess. But
listen, at the end of the day, if Toney, and I know Judy's not doing very well this year. Let me take a quick look.
No, he's not.
Again, they have another, cesspool over there in Denver. I mean,
listen, at the end of the day, if Toney got a third and a sixth, Judy's getting more.
Probably.
He's got 400 yards this year, which is what Toney has for his entire career.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably going to cost you a second, if I'm being honest. It's probably going to cost you a second to get Jerry Judy.
I'm not giving up a second. But the other thing is, Judy I don't know what the deal is with Kadarius Toney. Obviously, he fits Kansas City system really well.
He does. He fits very well.
Maybe they were willing to give up a little bit more for him. And again, I don't know what the deal is with Jerry Judy or what Denver's doing or how he fits over there. Maybe Denver's the same way. Maybe they just want something in return. If somebody offers him a second, like if Green Bay says, we'll give you a second round pick, then we miss out on him because I don't want to get a second round pick for Jerry Judy.
And worst case scenario, they just go into the draft and get him. I mean, it's not the end of the world. I mean, but something you definitely got to, if you're Shane, I'm sure he's probably thinking about it. And if he hasn't already made a call, maybe he will make that call after the Seattle game, like we talked about. All right, guys, I'm going to throw this out at you. And I know it's early, but I've got to put this out there because I happened to see something during the course of my reading today. Daniel Jones continues to play well. You figure he's going to get another contract from this team. But what happens if the Giants say, okay, you know what? We want Daniel back. We want Saquon back. We can only franchise one of the two. It's going to cost us less to franchise Saquon, which means, Daniel, we're going to have to try and work out a deal with you. But they're going to also have maybe some competition. Maybe, I don't know, Atlanta or Carolina, or maybe some of these other teams that are going to be in needs of quarterbacks might take note and say, you know what? Maybe we'll make a run at Daniel Jones. I mean, I know, Washington. Guys, I know a lot of people are like, gosh, what are you smoking? Or
no, you're not smoking anything.
You're getting ahead of yourself. And yes, I realize I'm getting a little ahead of myself.
I don't think
but it's something you have to. I think it's something you have to consider.
Look at the course of the NFL and what some of these Matt Flynn got a contract. He got a big contract after he played one game with the Packers.
Nick Foles got a big contract.
Nick Foles got a big contract.
Kirk Cousins, look at the contract.
The guy from Denver that was competing
Brock Osweiler.
Brock Osweiler got a big contract. Teams need quarterbacks in the NFL, so no, there will be a market for Daniel. But here's what I'm going to say: that if I'm Joe Schoen, this is the way I'm thinking this year, going right now. If I'm thinking about keeping both these players. I'm not even going to bother franchise taking Saquon Barkley because he's not going to play in the franchise tag. It's not going to happen. He's not playing on the franchise tag. He'll sit out the year. He plays a short shelf life position. You're going to have to give this guy multiple years. If I cannot work out a deal for Daniel Jones and I want to keep him, I use the tag on him, and then I try to work out a deal. Well, I already know he's locked in with the football team. I try to work out an extension after the fact. If it comes to that point, I don't let him reach the market. That's what I do. That's
even
how I
though it's going to cost you more to franchise.
But you could restructure, right? You could work out a deal after the fact that use it, or
once he's right. But you're still tying up that money, though. It's what is it like? They're going to be 31
or 32. But
right, so that's half of what their space is to protect the spaces.
You know this better than me. But say in June, you then come to an agreement. I'm willing to sign for 4 years. You could rip up the franchise tag, right?
Yeah, you can do that.
So that's what I do.
You want longer to negotiate.
I use it as a tool so Jones doesn't hit the market.
Okay. All right. Because I mean, I've kicked this around. I'm like, it would make sense from a cost perspective to do Saquon, but like you said, would Saquon play on that? I don't know.
No, I can't.
So in that case,
he's had a hard time with injuries. So if he's going to get paid, and again, running backs usually get one big contract because 29 is extremely young to me. But as far as a running back goes, you're getting near the end of your career when you hit 30 years old. So
yeah,
if he can get paid, like Chris said, I wouldn't. And if it's me, and I've dealt with serious injuries, and all of a sudden I'm having a big year, and they want to give me $9 million, I'd much rather say, nope, I'm going to sit out and not risk injury and then hit the free agent market and get my 18, 22 million a year for 4 years, whatever it is that somebody would give him, because somebody would pay him.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I was just curious about that because I said to myself, yeah, I could see potentially a market develop for Daniel Jones if he continues on the path that he's on. Now, would Daniel necessarily want to leave New York? That I don't know.
He'd be stupid too. And he's not stupid.
I
He's very
agree. I
smart.
mean, this is a perfect fit for him.
I think the fact that they're playing for Daboll, I think that would have a big influence on what they do. I think that they like that, especially Daniel Jones, because Daniel Jones has played for this is his third head coach in 4 years. God knows how many offensive coordinators the guy's had come in and out of here. He's
get some stability.
2 different GMs, and this should be more stability.
That's what it is.
For him.
That's what it is. Daniel Jones right now is sitting. He's looking at it straight in the eye, saying, I get to come back in this offense for a second straight year in offense I'm already very familiar with. So for the first time in forever, I get to play a second year in a good offense in the same scheme.
It's only going to get better from the draft.
It's only going to get better from the draft.
Yep.
Daniel Jones would be pretty naive, I think, to leave this situation. I don't think he will. I think they're going to work something out.
And I'm going to work, spoiler alert, I'm going to try and come up with contracts for both Daniel and Saquon. Just something to fill in the bye week. I have an idea what they might look to do with Daniel, and we'll see how close I come. Sometimes I come close and sometimes I don't, but I have a rough idea what I think they can do without breaking the bank. So that's going to be on Giants country. And if I can figure out a way to put it on the podcast, I'll do that as well. But definitely on Giants country because I can show my charts and everything like that. All right, let's get back to some of these questions. I want to get this question answered real quick from NY Giants 26. Wants some advice on how to become an NFL journalist. Don't. Do you know how many hours I work? No, I'm just kidding. I don't want to discourage anybody. But seriously, it is a lot of work, a lot of hours. I spend, I literally from the time I get up, 7:30 in the morning until sometimes after midnight, every day except really Saturday and except Saturdays. Really, that's the only day I go half a day. But seriously, if you want to be a journalist, the best thing to do, decide what type of journalist you want to be. Do you want to be a broadcast journalist, a content creator like Chris and Dog are? Do you want to be a writer like I am? I consider myself primarily a writer. What kind of journalist do you want to be? And then pick a platform and practice it. Do it daily. So if you're going to be, for example, a content creator, start a YouTube channel and start, getting the word out there. Use your hashtags, get a Twitter account, tag other journalists and whatnot. Get your name out there. And same thing if you're writing. If you're writing, start a blog, tweet out facts, look stuff up, do a lot of research. I do a lot of research to find obscure stats or little things that maybe other people aren't finding or talking about, and get it out there, because that's what's going to separate you from the rest of the pack, is if you come up with a position or a fact or something that sets you apart. You don't want to reiterate what everybody else is doing. It's like, come on. So come up with something unique and just develop your own voice and practice. Can't stress that enough. And think, again, long hours, be prepared.
And come up with a catchphrase. Come up with a catchphrase.
And come up with the dog.
Right. You just got to find your style and what works for you. That's really,
yes, really exactly. Or you could go to Chris and he could teach you stand up.
Nothing of mine was planned. I always said I started my channel for fun. The stand-up wasn't planned. The true story with the stand-up, I was drunk in a live stream and I just kept yelling stand-up because I was an obnoxious person watching the Giants and Bears game. And I kept stand up, Giants, stand up. And everybody in the chat started saying it and they actually liked it. So it became something. Nothing was planned.
You see the things you learn in this pod? It's so fascinating.
The one bit of advice I give to anybody whenever they ask me about a YouTube channel, whatever it is, I don't care if you're talking about pottery. I don't care if you're talking about cookies, flowers, movies, whatever. Make sure it's something that you love. Make sure it's something that you enjoy, and try to build a positive community. That's That's it. That's the only
And
advice.
be objective. That's the important thing. I see a lot of writers come to me, and they're fans, and you could be a fan of the game, but you have to be objective. You sometimes got to put aside your fandom for the team.
Mhm.
I grew up in a house where my father was a season ticket holder for the Giants. So I grew up with Giant fans. So when I became a journalist, I had to kind of put the fandom aside to be objective. Otherwise, as far as I'm concerned, everything's rosy and everything's great. And hey, we, the Giants, and I had that lesson actually a lesson I learned from the great Jerry Eisenberg. I don't know if you guys remember him or know who I'm talking about. He was a longtime columnist for the Star Ledger. Mm-hmm. One day we were sitting in the airport waiting. I think it was the Indianapolis airport, waiting to come home, and we were talking about the Giants. And I made the mistake of referring to the Giants as we. And he stopped me. He says, "What do you mean we?" I said, "The Giants." He says, "Why did you say we?" He says, "We suggest you and the Giants are one." And I thought about it, and I said, "Oh crap, you're right." So I was like, that was a lesson I never forgot. And from that day forward, I just stopped saying we, and I refer to the Giants as the Giants. The Giants need to do this, not we need to do that.
That's the difference between what you do and what BadDog and myself do. Is I still look at it as we.
And that's fine. I'm not criticizing what you guys do.
No. I don't think you're criticizing us at all. I'm just saying that's the difference. That's the difference. Like I think we try to be as objective and unbiased as we can, but at the end of the day, I never sugarcoat it. I'm a fan.
Right. And that's fine. And that's what makes you guys so special and unique.
You're always going to get a biased perspective. Right. That's what a fan is. A fan is biased.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure. I'm just saying, like in the press box, for example, we're not allowed to cheer.
No, you should. Right. You should be.
We have to sit like church mice in the press. So that's what I'm trying to talk about. There's that difference.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that I don't sit there. That doesn't mean that I don't sit there and the Giants do something. I don't sit there and go like this, raise a pump or fist pump or something like that. I was going to wear my sunglasses to start the show, except that
no, you know when you got to wear it second half. That's when BadDog and me put it on. We do the halftime adjustments.
Second half adjustments.
I was going to do that, but then the Toney trade kind of blew all that stuff up. But all right, let's get back to some of these questions here. Jonathan Asmat, is there any chance the Giants can get Beckham Jr.? Jonathan, no. Beckham's not going to be ready till December. He's going to cost too much. This team doesn't have cap space this year, and quite honestly, next year, get guys on a rookie deal. You're going to have other needs. I get the affection for Beckham. No, I'm afraid that I think that ship has sailed. I really do. Coming off 2 ACLs, get somebody who's younger, who you can get on a rookie contract and just, build from there. I mean, that's how I feel about it.
I'm in complete agreement with you. I know the fans hate hearing that. And I get it. He's the most talented wide receiver in Giants history. He's a fan favorite. Even I, and listen, you make mistakes sometimes. I think I did it. I was a little too hard on Odell Beckham towards the end, if I'm being completely honest. But I just don't see the fit. I don't see the fit for him more so than anybody else. To me, we have no money. We have no money. Like, to me, there's better options out there for him where he could get paid a little bit more. He's probably going to, he could go to a superstar quarterback. Like, I don't see the fit now. Now, maybe in 2 or 3 years, things are different, but right now I don't see the fit.
Yeah. And by then he'll be older. And, Odell, when he was here, contrary to what some of you might remember or whatnot, I liked Odell. I had no problem with him, but I really think that ship has sailed. I'd be surprised. I really would be surprised, Yeah,
I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but I've said ever since he got traded, there's a part of me that thinks he retires a Giant, even if it is just his last year in the league, and he does take a league, the veteran minimum, whatever that may be. But I could see him finishing it again. Maybe it's just 1 year, but I do feel like he is going to wear Giant blue one more time. I
could see that. I just don't think it's going to be this year.
No, not this year. No, because like you guys have just said, we don't have money to get Odell Beckham, which is why, DJ Moore doesn't really fit. And we need to look at guys like that are on the
cap's
like
bad, guys.
Yeah,
bad. It's that bad. I mean, it's the leftover effect of Gettleman, Yeah. I don't know what he was thinking. I saw it and I'm like, what are you doing, Dave? Come on.
You swinging for the fences. He said, listen, I was just
but it didn't work the 2 prior years that he did it. I don't know what made him think it was
that I don't know.
But anyway, all right. So Brandon Swan wants to know, why wouldn't Alex Bachman not want to go to the practice squad? You know, when he was initially cut, I think I had seen something about he was looking to catch on with another team, because he had such a good summer. But I don't know if he had an injury that maybe popped up. I'm just spitballing here. I don't know exactly why, but I find it kind of curious that he wasn't picked up. Maybe the teams don't view him as, the way the fans view him. I don't know. I thought he might be somebody that they would have brought back, but the fact that they haven't brought him back is kind of telling, I think. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think Bachman looked at the Giants situation as a dead end. He wasn't getting the opportunity. I mean, he was here for like 3 years on the practice squad, and he probably elected, rather than coming back here and signing the practice squad, seeing if somebody else would be interested in him. He had a strong preseason, strong training camp, and like you said, there was no real interest. So this is what happens when you're fans of
He
football.
probably would have been on the field, though. You look at our receivers now.
Yeah, he probably would have been.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah,
At this
absolutely.
point, he probably would have been. Yes,
it's kind of surprising, but all right. NY Giants 26. Surprise! Brandon Brown is not a GM somewhere.
He will be.
Shh.
He will be.
Please keep that quiet.
Now, the good news
this
with that
guy works his tail off, and
the good news with that, Patty, whenever that is, and it's going to happen. He's very smart.
It is
very smart from everything that you hear.
Yep.
We will get the compensation.
2 comp picks, exactly.
When he becomes a GM somewhere else, right? Because he's a minority candidate, which that's
exactly.
good.
But I don't want to lose him.
He's going to become a GM eventually.
That was one of the more
this
underrated.
guy is looking for talent in spots that I don't know that the previous regime thought to look.
That was one of the more moves that flew under the radar, was getting him from Philadelphia, because you look at what Philadelphia did. They were in cap hell, and they'd won 4 games, and in a matter of 2 years, they're where they are now. Now, High Roseman has a lot to do with that, but Brandon Brown was a big part of that as well. Watching what they did with the offensive line in Philadelphia and the way they fixed everything really fast, I'm like, that is a great guy to come in here and help out Joe Schoen. I was thrilled about getting him here. That's why a lot of times I talk about the GM, I always mention Brandon Brown, because I know he's got a lot to do with what's going on.
The Howie Roseman School.
Right. Our front office is very smart. They're very football smart. We talked about this last week. We had 3 Yale graduates, or not Yale, but Ivy League graduates, Ivy League brains on the sideline last year. It doesn't translate to football IQ. Book smart doesn't necessarily translate to football IQ. These guys are football smart. I'm not saying that they're not smart in general, but they're very football smart, especially a guy like Wink, who's been around the block. Daboll knows what he's doing. You see that, how Buffalo transitioned to being one of the best teams in the league. He had a big part to do with that. And of course, Kafka obviously worked with Pat Mahomes. You see how great that Kansas City offense is for all those years. And again, Andy Reid has something to do with that. It certainly helps to work with guys that understand what's going on. But these guys have their own style. They develop it. And it's a perfect storm now for the New York Giants. And there's a lot of holes here. And people don't like the term rebuild, but Joe Schoen said it. We're going to try to win, but he pretty much said, make no mistake about it, we're rebuilding.
Yes.
But we're 6-1. So just think about it. He said we're in a rebuild. We're 6-1, and we're only going to be going up from here, because you're going to get more draft capital. You're going to get more cap space, and these guys are going to have more familiarity with the coaches and the players and the playbook and everything else. So the way they've executed in the first year is unbelievable, and like I said, the future is bright for the Giants, and it feels good, Giants fans.
Yes, it does.
Let's go.
And you know what? I could see Shane for executive. If the Giants finish with somehow winning the division, Shane should be a clear-cut executive of the year. Daboll should be coach of the year.
Yeah,
I know that sounds like I'm being a homer, but look, I'll take it. Those 2 guys have done a whale of a job. Yeah. And they just play off of each other so well. I call them the twins, because it's funny when they show up for joint pressers, they're usually wearing the same shirt. They're twinning, I guess is what they call it.
Twinning and winning. That's the way we do it.
Exactly. And I like that the 2 of them speak together, as opposed to, Daboll speaks separately and Shane's. That's what they used to do in the past, the GM and the head coach. And sometimes the messages didn't align. Now at least they can hear what the questions are. They can be on the same page, and it's such a wonderful dynamic.
It's a completely different feel. Like after these games, when you see the sideline videos after the games, you see Daboll and Shane like
hugging,
violently hugging it out, like they can't wait to hug each other and they love each other. Could you picture Dave Gettleman like crawling over to Joe Judge or crawling over to Pat Shurmur and doing something like that? Like these guys, like you said, they really like, and obviously they were with each other in Buffalo.
Right.
You knew that he was coming as soon as Joe Schoen got the job. And you could tell, like, no, these guys are they're locked. These guys are going to work together. They want to work together. There's not going to be any, disconnection here. These guys are going to work together for a long time, and that's what you want as a fan. You want a head coach and GM that are together and they think alike and they want to work together. They like one another, and that's what the Giants finally have here. They didn't have that with Gettleman and Shurmur and Gettleman and Judge. They didn't have it.
No.
One thing I like that Daboll said in the press conference after the game last week is when he said that, I'm never really happy. And to me, that's a winning mentality because
that's a Belichick mentality.
Right. You should never be happy. You should always be striving. As soon as you settle, that's when you fall apart.
That's when
you
you're
can't
in trouble.
settle and be like, oh, I'm happy, because then you're going to fall off. You have to continue. And that's not just football. That's life. You have to always try to reach for new goals. You hit a goal, set another one.
Yep.
Don't just settle, because at that point, when you're settling, it's like, well, what do I have to strive for? What do I have to work for? So continue to find something. So I love when he said that, because I'm like, that's a winning mentality.
Yep.
Never settle, always strive. And he's got that mentality. So, the Giants can be 16-1 at the end of the year, and he can be sitting there going, well, we're not done. I'm not happy with that. I want this. I want this. I want this. Oh, you want a Super Bowl? I'm not happy. I want another Super Bowl. That's what you want in your head coach.
That's what you exactly. Great point. All right. I want to get this question in from the Big Moon. We got a salary cap question. What do contracts with incentives count against the cap? The short answer is yes. There are two types of incentives. There's likely to be earned, LTBE, and not likely to be earned, and not NL, not likely to be earned. The acronym.
We got it.
You got it. So likely to be earned incentives would be things like play time, certain amount of yardage, touchdowns, sacks. The likely to be earned incentives count against the current year's cap. The not likely to be earned incentives would be things like postseason related stuff,
MVPs,
winning a Super Bowl,
like
MVP. That stuff would count against the following year's cap if it is earned.
If he hits the bonus, right.
Right. So that's the difference. So the short answer is yes, all the incentives do count against the cap. It's just a matter of if they're likely to be earned or not likely to be earned.
I got a question about that.
Sure.
Is it player specific? Because if you're talking about Kenny Golladay, if one touchdown's in his contract, that's probably not likely to be earned. Now, if you're talking about somebody else, I'm obviously kidding a little bit, but is it player specific? How do they identify
it's player specific. So, for example, let's take Daniel Jones's contract. Maybe they put a clause in the contract that says, "Okay, Daniel, if you win a Super Bowl, we'll give you $1 million extra." That's a not likely to be earned incentive.
That would be not likely to be earned for any quarterback, I would think. Super Bowl.
But Eli had it. Eli, I think, in one of his contracts in 2011, he cleaned up. Because I think he had a not likely to be earned incentive for every playoff game he won. I don't remember what the amount was, but I remember he had something like that. So it's a way to further motivate, and and I was talking about different mechanisms that they can do to put these contracts together for quarterbacks. These are some of the things I'm going to touch upon probably when I come up with my model for Daniel Jones.
Right, especially like Saquon Barkley. Like,
Saquon's another one.
Played guy. You have to play.
Are you the rushing leader?
Right, or 14 games, because he's missed a lot of time. So hey, listen, if you play 14 games,
same thing with Jones.
Well, that would be if you play 14 games, that would be a per game roster bonus. That counts against the current year. Okay. So that players do have that. There are different mechanisms, and I can go over some of them. Like I said, if you guys, and I'm talking about also the audience here, if you're interested in like a cap, I don't want to call it seminar, but like a cap thing where I just put examples up on the screen and then you guys ask questions, drop me a comment or, post it or whatnot. And just let me know. I don't know if there's be an interest in something like that. Because sometimes, people find that confusing or boring or whatnot. I find it fascinating. I think it's important to know because you have to understand. And this way you can write informed, stuff. So that's why when people say, oh, they should trade for Mike Gesicki, well, they can't fit him under the cap. So, well, couldn't they do this? Well, maybe if they manipulate this here, they do this kind of gymnastics. So there are things to learn. And I actually took a course. There's a course you can take on the NFL salary cap. Joel Corey teaches it. And I took that course a couple of years ago. I already knew the cap pretty well, but I've learned a lot, especially about contract structures and all that stuff. So not that I'm going to be a GM anytime soon or a capologist, but I felt that was important to learn because it gives me another element, something else I can write about that maybe my colleagues maybe aren't doing as much. So this to my 2 cents on the subject. All right, let's see. The ball don't lie. How can the Eagles only pay Quinn about $700,000 in a trade? I didn't see what they are paying Quinn. Let me just see.
Yeah, I'm gonna look up his contract too.
I got to look up his contract to see. I think it might have to do with proration, but let me see. Robert Quinn contract.
Yeah, he was.
Let me see what he had. So 2023.
I mean, I'm looking at it now.
You know what they probably did? All right. He had a base salary. Oh no, here it is. His base salary was 1.12 million. So the 700 or whatever it is,
prorated.
It's prorated. Exactly. That's how they can afford it. That's what it is.
The next 2 years, he's 14 and 13 mil, but there's no dead hit, so they could cut him if they want, and there's no penalty.
Right. Well, he's actually 13.9. No, you're right. 14. You're right. Because he has workout bonuses. But that's how they were able to afford that.
Don't worry about Robert Quinn. All you gotta do is go back, take a look at that Bears film against the Giants, and see that he didn't sniff Daniel Jones because our guy Andrew Thomas handled him just fine.
Yes,
like I said, speak softly and carry a pancake block. That's
I love that. Now you got me wanting pancakes tomorrow for breakfast.
I have pancakes every morning for breakfast at work.
Do you really?
Yeah, little 3 protein pancakes, little pancakes. Yes,
maybe I'll get pancakes tomorrow for breakfast. Good. I don't know if I have any pancake mix upstairs.
Pancakes are waffles. What do you go with?
I pop in the microwave for 2 minutes. We're good to go. But you go to work. I have no choice.
My husband likes Mickey D's pancakes. I don't care for them, but I'll give it some thought. Maybe it'll be. I haven't had pancakes in a while, but anyway. All right. NY Chris asked, what do you guys think about making a trade for Roquan Smith instead of receiver?
He's a free agent at the end of the year.
He makes a lot of money too, doesn't he?
I'm sorry.
He should still be
he makes a decent amount of money, doesn't he?
Roquan Smith. Yeah. Let me see what he makes. I'm pretty sure
$9.7 million.
Wow.
He's on the last year of his rookie deal. He was a high draft pick.
Yeah, they can't fit him. Can't fit him. So I mean, and plus they're going to get Ellerson Smith back at some point. They're hoping to get Azeez Ojulari back. I don't. Receiver to me is a bigger need. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, guys.
Yeah, I think our defense is good enough. Obviously, you'd like it to be better, but I think if we could just what a number one wide receiver could do for the offense could really alleviate some of the pressure on the defense as well. So the defense is like, we got to be perfect. I think if offense started, and again, they've been efficient enough, but if they could add a big weapon to open everything else up.
If you had a weapon, you think about what that does for the ground game.
Right.
Like we've had this success. We have the number one running offense in football right now.
Yep.
And we have the number one running offense without the threat of an outside wide receiver.
Right.
You had an outside wide receiver, Saquon Barkley. Are you kidding me? Yeah. With a threat on the outside, they can't stack that box anymore. Daniel Jones likes to work off of Saquon Barkley, having more success.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden, this offense goes from pretty good to could be really good if you had a legitimate number one wide receiver on the outside, because that just adds another element to what the defense has to account for.
Especially if you can get Golladay back and healthy, then you really may have something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. All right. Nice Giant fan said, wouldn't DJ Moore cost us about $600,000 on this year's cap? DJ Moore, 25 years old. He does have a base salary of $1.035 million.
Next year, it's big.
It's next year's
million.
number. Yeah, you're talking 19.9 million. So
$20 million. And you got to re-sign Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley.
Dexter Lawrence potentially.
Dexter, they've got him under contract. They've got him under contract for what? This
one more year. They do
one more year. But I think at some point, if I'm the Giants, I look to extend him.
Yeah,
Dexter's playing lights out.
Yeah,
and let me tell you something. That dude, he's in good shape. He's in good shape, and the maturity level that he has shown as a leader. I mean, I'm really impressed by. I told him, I said, Dexter, it's been an absolute pleasure to see you grow up from a we used to call him a chubby cheap rookie because he was kind of chubby. Now he's
Right.
solid. He is rock
He's a
solid.
man now.
People.
Man,
He is rock solid, and it's just to see these guys. And I tell you guys this all the time. To watch these guys, they come in as kids, as rookies, and they mature as players, as they grow into fathers and husbands. It's really rewarding for me. I know that sounds kind of hokey, but it's just to watch it and see it before your eyes, and you think, wow, I remember when, like I was kidding Eli Manning. I says, I remember when you were a little snot-nosed kid coming in 2004. He goes, yeah, I remember that too. He goes, I was kind of obnoxious one night. So.
Let me ask you. I don't think that this is this crazy to say anymore. If you would have told me this before you started, I would have said, what are you talking about? Shut up. Dexter Lawrence might be Dave Gettleman's best draft pick.
I would agree.
17th
overall. One of.
He might be the best.
Don't forget Andrew Thomas.
Andrew Thomas was 4th overall. They're 17th over, a little bit late. I'm not saying.
So you're talking in terms of value.
Right now, I'm probably leaning Andrew Thomas, and Julian Love is a very good value pick as well. That's looking very good. Xavier McKinney, a very good value pick. But Dexter Lawrence, if he becomes what he's trending towards, and you got him in the middle of the first round, all of a sudden, like Gettleman's draft picks, you're like, this guy knew how to draft. Wasn't very good at free agency, but this coach is.
Yeah, and he didn't know how to pick a coach.
He didn't know how to pick a coach.
That was a major problem. It's funny though, Pat. You mentioned a couple that we've seen Daniel Jones mature into a leader this year. We've seen Dexter Lawrence maturing into a leader. I don't think that's coincidence that it's their 4th year, so they've all of a sudden figured it out. The coaching. We go back. It has a lot to do with it. One thing I've always said, and I know at the end of Eli Manning's career, Jerry Reese didn't do any favors with the offensive line. The offensive line was a train wreck. It was terrible. They couldn't protect him, and they started to fall off in pretty much 2016. I felt, even though they made the playoffs, I felt like they really started to fall off at that point. One thing I've always said, and I have no idea about knowing this, I think when they Tom Coughlin, when they got rid of Coughlin or gave him his release, whatever, they didn't really quote unquote fire him, but he
resigned.
I felt like that took a part of Eli, because Eli, that was the only coach he ever played for. Coughlin was like a father figure to Eli. I always felt like that took a piece of Eli. Would never say it.
Cried that
but I would think that had a lot to do with it. So it just shows you how important a coach is. And although Daboll's a younger guy, I think Daboll's actually younger than me. I still feel like these guys look at him like not like a father figure, but like we talk about a buddy. Like, that's my guy. That my guy's got my back. But at the same time, he gives him leadership. He shows maturity. He believes in them, and he allows these guys to be themselves. And we've seen that because he shows confidence in them, and they found confidence in themselves. So it turned them into leaders, and their play showing. That's why coaching is so big. And that was my mistake because, like I said, I was critical of Daniel Jones, and I'm a guy that understands how important coaching is, especially when you get into the playoffs. But for some reason, I just thought the Giants were beyond hope because it's been so bad for 5 years. I'm glad I was wrong, and it's been a lot of fun this year, and hopefully it continues.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, we all have opinions. I mean, I've been wrong. I'm not going to sit here and say that I've hit every pig.
I say it all the time, Pat. I'm married. I'm wrong every day of my life.
You're going to be wrong just as much as you're right. If you're being honest,
exactly.
With if you're putting your opinion,
but you know what? Here's the thing, though. Going back to the question that I got about being a journalist, you're not going to have 1,000 batting average. It's just not going to happen. But if you present a logical argument,
that's the most important thing.
That's the most. You just don't shoot out an opinion.
Content. That is good.
Just don't put out an opinion. And it's like people say, oh, we should do this. Okay, why? Tell me why.
Yeah, exactly. I can watch and that's what I try to do. I can watch someone and I could look back and be like, that was a horrible take 2 years from now. But in the moment, if you present your side of the argument in a well-constructed manner and you have a legitimate reason to believe what you believe, even if you turn out wrong, people have to respect it. That to me is good content.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the pulse of sports. I say it all the time. It changes week in and week out. Let's look at the power rankings. The power rankings don't say the same the entire year. There's a reason that teams, where were the Giants at the beginning of the year? 29th, 30th? Where are they now? 5th?
In the top 10.
Right. They're in the top 10. So obviously the pulse of sports changes from week to week, especially in football, because every game means so much. And a guy could look. Who would have thought Geno Smith this is 10th year in the league, would be having the year he's having? People probably gave up on Geno Smith, forgot Geno Smith was in the league. I know I forgot Geno Smith was in the league, but look at him having a resurgence. But people that were down on Geno Smith when he was with the Jets had a reason to be. But now you can't go back and look at the Jets guys and go, oh, I told you Geno Smith was going to be great back in 2014. You just
nobody thought he was going to be great. He hasn't had a job for 10 years.
That's what I'm saying. So it's tough.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. We have a question from Todd DeStefano. Any chance we trade Slayton, then package picks for Judy? I don't think so.
I don't want to trade Slayton.
If you had said to me, trade Slayton at the start of the year, I might have said maybe. And it's funny. I had to do a joint article for Fan Nation of Sports Illustrated, the best trade scenario. And I submitted this before the Toney thing, and I had put Slayton down, but I did so very reluctantly because I knew in my heart that that just wasn't going to happen. And I said, well, maybe, who knows? You never know. I thought, maybe they wouldn't give up on Toney so quickly. But I learned more about it, and after I had filed that, I asked the editor, I said, can I change my thing? And he says, we already edited, it's ready to go. I was like, all right. I'm
at this point, and I by no means do I think Slayton's the long-term answer. I don't think he's
he's not. But I could see where it makes sense, or why you would think that. He's in the final year of his rookie deal. Yeah. Is he going to be the long-term? Is he going to be with this team long-term? I don't think so. I think
he might be, though. Don't rule it out.
Well, he may be, but
he came back here for peanuts. He came back here. He took a pay cut to come back.
And you know what? That I've said it before. I'll say it again. That young man has been the absolute model of professionalism.
Hey, listen, I'm gonna give credit to two Giants regarding that. This is the way you handle criticism, okay?
Yep.
Evan
Not
Ingram,
like a Toney.
We hated Evan Ingram as a fan base, right? He did a lot of. He handled it like a champion. He handled it very well.
Yes, he did.
You didn't see him do what Kadarius Toney did. He handled it very well. He handled it like a true professional.
Yes, he
did.
And
Darius Slayton has done the same thing. I'm going to give both of those individuals credit for that. Darius Slayton handled the criticism incredibly well. Hasn't said a word. Came back on a pay cut, $800,000, and now he's playing pretty well. And not to mention him and Daniel Jones have some kind of chemistry. They've always had some kind of chemistry. Yep. He probably has more chemistry with Darius Slayton than any other wide receiver on this team right now. So I'm not in a rush to trade Darius Slayton. Why would I want to? We're thin there to begin with.
I at this point,
I was going to say, wouldn't that defeat the purpose? Like we're short on wide receivers. Why would we trade one for another one? And to be honest, Slayton's really our only burner, if you will. A guy that ran a 4.39 out of Auburn. He's kind of like who's our other outside wide receiver? It's a lot of Wan'Dale Robinson's a nice player, but he's more of a slot guy, Richie James and David. Like those aren't guys that think of like running, those out routes or those deep patterns down the sideline. That's Slayton. Slayton had the big 32-yard touchdown pass or catch rather this week to get the Giants off to a good start. So yeah, I mean, I'd let Slayton play out the year. He doesn't cost anything. And again, we saw the rookie season. They had a really good rapport, kind of fell off, and everybody fell off under that last coaching regime. So we're seeing them kind of get it back together. And like Chris said, the man was willing to take a big pay cut to come back here. So obviously he wants to be here.
I tipped my cap to him. And I told him, I said to him, I have mad respect for you for how you're handling yourself. And he's very modest about it. The guy never ducks. You go into the locker room, he's always at his locker. He's always willing to talk. Not everybody's like that.
And that was a smart decision.
Evan was like
him.
that.
That was a smart decision by him, by the way, even though maybe he could have made a little bit more money in the open market. He got to come back with a quarterback he's played with before. They have a rapport. And he knew when he signed back here, this was likely because the Giants had a ton of injury-prone wide receivers. So he knew he was going to get his opportunity in a good offense with Brian Daboll, a good offensive play caller between him and Kafka. So it was a smart decision on Slayton's part because I do think he'll get a decent contract next year when he becomes a free agent.
I think so too. I think he will as well. Nice Giant fan. Why not trade Richie James for Judy? Yeah, I don't think the value's there straight up.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know why Denver would do that.
No, I don't see that happening. You got to do equivalent value. And Richie James, I like Richie James. I like what he's done for this team, but I don't think you're going to trade a guy who. What was Richie? Was he a 3rd-round pick originally?
I think he was 3rd. Yeah, I think he was 3rd.
3rd-round pick for.
I'm going to double
first?
check that, but I'm pretty sure he was a 3rd.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Judy's a starting receiver, and is Richie James really going to be a starting receiver on any other team? Maybe.
Oh, I'm wrong. I got him confused with. He's a 7th-round pick. Richie.
He's
James.
a 7. All right, there you go.
Yeah, 2018.
The value's just not there, and no offense. Like I said, I like Richie James, but the value's got to be there.
He's a solid. To me, he could be like a solid 4th or 5th wide receiver, but
right.
He's not somebody that you want starting.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's see. We'll take a few more because I know Chris and the dog got to go soon.
You did it better. You need a little more emphasis on the AUG. A little bit more, just a little bit.
Chris and the dog.
The dog.
There you go.
Dog.
You're starting to
They got to go soon because they got their show. They're going to do another 2 hours. God bless them. Scott Young. Well, hey, guys, what do you think about the chance of the Giants losing Wink next year for a head coaching job? I think he's going to be a hot candidate.
We might, but here's what I'm actually more worried about: Kafka.
Yeah, Kafka's younger, so offensive guys usually end up being head coaches.
Yeah, that's what I'm concerned
very
about.
rare. Even what's his name? The Miami coach that a lot of people wanted the Giants to hire.
McDaniel?
No.
Flores?
Even he couldn't, because he's a defensive guy. So teams throughout the league
are
looking for offense, and you'll get the occasional defensive coach, but. It may not be this year because this is Kafka's first year as an offensive coordinator, but if the Giants have a lot of success, don't be surprised. Teams take shots. McDaniel got a shot. He was really young this past year with the Dolphins. So that is where the league's trending. People are looking for like what we did with Daboll. So I'm actually more worried about Kafka than Wink, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, Wink is older. I don't know if Wink would even want to be a head coach at this point.
I think he does.
Yeah.
I think he was. I mean, remember Wink interviewed here for a head coaching job and kind of, stayed with Baltimore, and then they parted ways, fired him, whatever you want to call it. And now here he is.
I forgot all about that.
Yeah. So, but listen, I think someday Wink, if that's what he wants to do, sure.
I think it is. I mean, you got to remember he interviewed for our job, remember, with Judge. So I think he would like to be a head coach.
Yeah, I think so as well. So, all right, let me just see if we have anything else. Oh, there's one for you guys. Would you wear the shades at the half if we are winning and blowing out teams? Is that
always
directed?
Always.
What's
the shade? Tradition. Halftime, the shades come on.
Yeah, got to put them on. Got to finish out the game before a head.
What the heck? I had a pair of shades. Here they are.
Put them on.
I got to take off my regular glasses so I can see. But why not? We'll put them on. Why not?
Let's go.
I won't be. Here we go.
She's joining the Shade Club. Yeah. There we go.
I don't have mine, right? Mine are in my car.
Shady Rains, former one-time sponsor, by the way. Great shades. So
at halftime, this is what you got to do are you going to the game? No, they're on the road.
No,
this week,
right? They're on the road.
So. When you watch the game, you watch it from your living room, I'm assuming.
Kind of. I also have a live stat feed that I follow as well. So kind of
wherever you watch the game next week, I need you to join me in Bad Dog at halftime. You put the shades on.
Put them on.
So during halftime, jump onto your feed. You'll see me in.
Where's it? Right at the start of? Is it at halftime or the start of the third quarter? I think we.
I know we do it like right at half. I can't wait to
right at halftime. Okay.
Like right at halftime.
I have. Excuse me. I have the. I have to do the halftime report. So if I have it ready to go by then, if the Giants don't go back and forth, I will join you and I will bring the shades.
Just pop on for like 2 minutes and put the shades on with us.
There you go. We'll keep it going. I love it, man. You got that's so cool. You got to have fun with this stuff, right?
Yes, you do.
Yeah,
we had no choice the last 5 years. We had clown music. We had rolls of toilet paper saying this is a Giants playbook when he ran those back-to-back quarterback sneaks. We were. I had a paper bag I put over my head for one of the video. Like it was rough. It was anything to get through it. Had to
oh my gosh!
Last year was brutal.
Oh, last
year was brutal.
Funny.
Worst year I've probably ever experienced as a Giants fan. 2017 was really bad, but my son was born, so it was a little easier to take. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, you guys hang in there. So, and it's going to pay off. It's going to pay off. So,
hopefully.
All right. Let's see. Get a couple more in, and then I'll let you guys get ready for your show. Mike Gorga, is it true the infamous boat trip was actually arranged by Cruz, not by Odell? You know what? I don't even remember. I honestly don't remember who arranged it. I was surprised that Victor went on it. Being the older receiver at the time, you would have thought Victor would have had a little bit more common sense.
And he won
especially
a
after Victor wasn't on the team in 2007 when Jason Witten famously, the Cabo trip. Remember that with the Cowboys?
Of course.
But that's what I remember, that when I found out about that boat trip, I was like, that's what that reminded me of.
Such a horrible decision.
It was bad.
And I'm not saying they lost. They didn't lose the game because of that, but just the optics.
The optics were horrible.
And the bulletin board material for the Packers. Like, why would you do it? Like, if I'm Mike McCarthy that week, I'm like, listen, guys, look at this. Their whole entire receiving corps is out on the beach. We're preparing for the football game. Like, they're not respecting it. Like, what were they thinking?
And it was a distraction that whole week in the locker room. Because that's all the media asked about.
Yep.
Not a single football question was asked because everybody was like, well, what do you think? And then McAdoo had to put that fire out. And
I'm going to tell you right now, that does not happen under Tom Coughlin.
No, it doesn't. No.
Even if Tom Coughlin wasn't a hard ass
they would have allowed it.
Even if he wasn't as tough as he used to be, because he wasn't down the stretch, they would have had more respect for Tom Coughlin. They're not going out and doing that the week of a playoff game against the Green Bay Packers.
They wouldn't do it with Brian Daboll either. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, I think I'm with you.
They make the playoffs this year. There ain't no boat trips.
No.
There ain't no boat trips.
No. He might have sleepover. He might have sleepovers at the Giants facility.
Right.
You guys can't leave.
They
have a movie night. Popcorn or whatever.
They have beds and stuff that if they want to have a sleepover for film and whatnot, they do have that.
Remember the Titans, Rudy.
They can listen to our streams.
Right. Why not?
There you go. Why not? It could be a lot of fun, right?
Yeah. Oh, we make the playoffs. I can't imagine Chris and I stream. We'll be pumped up. We haven't had an opportunity to really be pumped up when we started doing this in 2018. So it's been a fun year.
Sure. It definitely has. I'm just checking to see if we have any other questions because, I want to let you guys get ready. I know Chris is going to probably want his coffee.
Yes.
That was a good idea. I did the coffee last week myself. So I was like a minute late because Chris was going to get coffee and I sat here and I'm like, oh, that actually sounds really good.
So well, you and I were chatting afterwards, I think,
yes,
right?
we were.
Yeah.
What do you do? And
I was like, you know what? I'm going to go after we got off. I was like, I'm going to go make my coffee.
How do you guys drink your coffee?
Black.
Me too.
Did you know I'm not a big coffee drinker?
Now I do.
Is it weird, right? You would think a journalist, I would be into coffee. I don't like the taste of coffee.
What do you
My
drink,
mother, I'll tell you a fun story before we wrap up. My mother, when I was growing up, she could not wait till I got older because she was looking forward to having morning coffee with me. And I never liked the taste of it. And she tried to get me onto coffee by buying coffee ice cream. And I hated it. Never got into coffee. And she's like, how could you not like coffee? And especially when I became a journalist, she's like, don't journalists, isn't that all they drink? I'm a tea drinker. I'll drink tea like it's going out of style, but I don't like coffee.
No, like if you put some flavored cream in it, like you don't go to Dunkin' Donuts to get like the pumpkin spice.
The only time I have,
the
only time I have coffee really is on draft weekend. And that's because I need to stay up late. Or if I really need to stay up late, then I might say, okay, I'll have a half a cup or something. I can't drink this stuff. I don't like it.
I live on caffeine. It's energy drinks. It's Coke Zero, as everybody knows. I'm a gigantic Coke Zero drinker, and coffee every day. I mean, in the morning.
Yeah, I'm fortunate.
I work some long hours on YouTube and in real life, so
I definitely.
I'm addicted. I'm addicted to coffee.
Yeah. Last night I know was a late night. I should have probably had a cup last night because I was dead tired, but. Anyway, I powered through. Sometimes just the energy and especially, the energy of the fans, which I appreciate.
And the team you take right after Coach Daboll. Your fighter, Patty, is getting through this.
Yes, but also the fans. The fans fire up Coach Daboll. Yep. And for me, the feedback I get from the fans, the suggestions. People say, "Oh, the journalists don't listen." A lot of times somebody will write to me, hey, why don't you do an article on this or that? And I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. And I'll say, so-and-so suggested I do an article on this. Here it is. So, you see people say, oh, I'm a man of the people. I guess you could say I'm a woman of the people. Is that if that's applicable? But I do listen. I do read all the comments or most of them. I ignore the trolls, obviously.
Yep.
And, keep those cards and letters coming, folks, because you're the reason why I do this. You know, I could, you know,
Chris
my
and I
husband.
say that all the time. We're like, you
Yeah.
know, everyone's like, thank you. Like, no, we thank you. We don't exist without,
Yeah.
you know, the people that watch us every week. So it's great.
Yep. And I want to send a best wishes to Alexander. I hope your pops or who, or if it's you, I hope whoever is in the hospital, you know, you're fine. I'm assuming it's your father. So best wishes to you, Alexander. Thank you for tuning in. You know, obviously, you know, to tune into a football pod. I appreciate that. I hope your pops as well. I hope you're well. Stay safe and hope we see you at another Locked On Giants live.
Absolutely.
So, all right, we gotta let you guys get your coffee
predictions.
going.
No,
You want to do predictions?
No,
All
I
right.
do.
Well,
Well,
you
we
don't
did it
like to
last
do
week.
them. You don't like to do it. You picked this last week though.
She did.
all right. I did pick last week. You're right.
Yeah.
All right. You want to do predictions real quick?
You got to do them.
All right. So,
Papa
you go first,
Guzzo,
dog.
I have not shaved. You see that I cannot shave before I
did
do
Papa
this show.
Guzzo give you a hard time?
I don't know. He just always says, "Dog, you need to shave." And this, I cannot shave before this show. We have to shave afterwards because, again, as Eli said, I'm a little stitious.
Okay. So, what's your prediction?
Oh, I start this time.
Yeah.
Well, this game, it's funny because Chris has the complete opposite feeling I do. I'm worried about this game. I don't. That flight.
A lot of people are. I've noticed that.
I am
That flight
too.
to Seattle bothers me. It's a really tough place to play, and I'm like, man, eventually it's not going to happen. Eventually, we're not going to be able to come back. But it ain't this week, baby. Giants 20, Seahawks 16, 7-1 going to the bye. Let's go.
Wow.
Gotta pull the swerve on them there.
Yeah, and listen, I have a lot of respect for the Seahawks. I do. I think they are a pretty good team. Geno Smith is definitely exceeding my expectations. Never thought he'd do this. They got a really good young running back. I don't hate the way we match up with this team. I know everybody's scared of the running back, and our run defense has not been good. I do worry about the travel. I do worry about being on the road, but this Giants team has proven they're tough all year. So normally the Seattle environment would scare me a lot more than with this team. This team's been – every time I doubt this team, you know, whether it be due to injuries, going to London, traveling on short rest back from London and playing Baltimore, they come prepared. They come ready to fight. So that Seattle home field advantage would normally bother me a lot more than it does with this team. And when you look at that team, Seattle, their run defense is pathetic. They're 30th in the league. What do the Giants look to do? They look to pound the rock. So to me, I think Daniel Jones is going to have success with his legs. I think Saquon Barkley is going to have success with his legs. And the way this Giants team is winning football games, it's not a magic formula. Control the clock, win the time of possession. And I don't see how Seattle's defense is going to stop that. And I recognize we have some injuries. Bellinger's out. The offensive line's banged up. But I think we're going to be able to get the job done. I think we're going to control the time of possession. We'll have our struggles on defense. But even last week when we gave up a ton of yards, we held strong in the red zone. I think they were 1 of 5 in the red zone. So I think we're going to find a way to win this game. I really do. And I'm like scared that I'm starting to get more confident than I've been early in the year because I start to see other people now, like Bad Dog, saying they're a bit worried. I see people on Twitter. And I'm not saying we could lose, definitely could lose. But I like us. I think we're going to win. I got the Giants 24-17. Giants by a touchdown.
All right.
Oh, by the way, there's the thing about this, though. I said we'd beat Baltimore, 24-21? Was that what it was? And we won 24-20. Last week, I had us winning 24-17. We won 23-17. I've been pretty close. So maybe we win 21-16 instead of 20-16 this time, but we're winning this game.
Let's go.
All right. So I guess it's my turn, huh?
Yes, finish it off.
All right. Well, last week I picked the Giants, even though I had said that by picking against them, they were winning. So I threw caution to the wind, and it worked out. By 1 yard, which was a close shave. That being said, I'm not as concerned about close shave.
Why would he shave? We'd have lost.
I know, seriously. I'm not as concerned about the travel because of how I know they're doing the trip and whatnot. So that doesn't bother me as much. I think this is going to be a lot closer. I know some of, Chris, you picked them by a touchdown. Dog, you picked them by I think it's going to come down to a field goal.
Yeah.
I want to say, what the heck? I said I wouldn't pick against the Giants until, for the rest of the games before the bye. Giants 26, Hawks 23.
Let's go. I like it.
I'll take it. Win's a win.
And if they lose, you can blame me. Just be nice.
I think we got a good shot, though. I really do. I think I'm going to go 60% chance we win this game.
All right. Well, we'll see. Fingers crossed, right? So
we'll see.
And all right. So, guys, I will see you. We'll try to see you at halftime. I'll bring the shades.
If you can. If you can't, don't worry.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if I get my story filed in time, I will. I mean, because I've got halftime duty, and then afterwards, another writer takes over. But definitely going to try and bring my shades with me so I can pop on with you. But anyway, thank you as always, everybody, for joining us here on LockedOn Giants Live. We had a great time tonight. We covered a lot of ground. Always fun talking with Taina and Dog. And of course, taking your questions. If you asked a question, we didn't get to it.
You know what I'm going to do, by the way, Patricia? I'm going to get 10 index cards for the show next week. And every time you use dog, I'm going to grade you on 1 to 10. We're going to get the right dog down before, within the next couple of weeks.
All right, that works. And we can have everybody else, and those who participate in the chat, they can put a number
We're going to grade you 1 to 10 every time you do the dowel.
Okay.
We'll see. We'll get you there.
All right. I could deal with that. I can take criticism like anybody else. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. We'll be back next week with all new shows. I'm sure David Turner will be with me for one show, and I've got interviews planned, Twitter Tuesdays planned. If you didn't get your question answered today, pop it in a tweet to me, put it in the comments. I'll try and get to them. We got Giants Country mailbag on Saturday. You can also email it to me. Info's in the show notes. So everybody have a great night. Dog, Taina, thank you so much. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you. Sounds good. Let's go Giants.
Let's go Big Blue.
All right.